You got 120 seconds.
Yeah.
To give me your life story.
It's funny. It's like a recovery. Recovery leads like 60 minutes. Wait, 120 seconds? That's like 2 minutes. I have a hard time getting the life story and like. Well, I was born a poor black child.
Yeah, I knew the Steve Martin reference was coming at some point here. There was no question about that. What a great movie too.
Oh my
right?
God, yeah.
That's a whole podcast in its own right.
I always wanted to do it in a recovery league, but I was like, some people are not going to get that.
No, and we're an uber sensitive society now.
120 seconds. That was it.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that's pretty.
This isn't my
simplistic.
first lifetime though.
No.
Which one do I have to explain? Shit. Yeah, you said 120 seconds. I was thinking 120 minutes. I'm like, well, I could do that.
Well, you're a guy that lives your passion, see, and that's part of the reason why I enjoy your company and why you're here.
Yeah.
So I figured 120 seconds would be easy for you just to say, this is who I am. This is what I do.
This is who I am. Wait, do I start now?
Yeah, you can do it right now.
Golly. I'm fascinated by the human spirit. By humans. Period. So psychology, mythology, interaction. We'll talk more, but like people want to have deep conversations. People are curious about each other. And that's why, how many people do you run into are like, I'm a people watcher?
Not many that admit that.
Yeah.
You know?
I admit a lot. I get a lot. But I get into people a lot too.
Yeah.
You know? So like I don't want to just watch them. I want to interact with them.
Right.
Everyone I encounter. Because I also think everyone you encounter is part of your story and has a message for you.
I
believe that there is a creative mind out there that's trying to get our attention every day, all day. Like
that's so that's the esoteric version of who you are. Remedial, like when you leave here today, where the hell are you going? What are you going to do?
I'm finishing a novel, so I'm going to King Fly Spirits to sit down and have some coffee and try I'm like 2 paragraphs away.
Good for you, man.
My first novel. So,
unbelievable.
And then I'm going to go to yoga.
Yeah,
I don't know. Who am I? Shit. I'm curious.
See, I actually kind of stumped you. I can't believe it.
Yeah.
At least temporarily.
Those are hard. Who am I?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Who am I? Who are you?
I'm now going to have an existential crisis when I leave here.
But you're in mixology. You're in bar management. You know? You're a dynamic people person. You might not want to think of yourself that way, but you really are.
Yeah. It was funny. I was a friend of mine is in a band. I met through my old roommate, Night Riots, and I was seeing them in Cleveland.
Okay.
And after the show, we're kind of sitting in the green room cleaning up, and these are great guys, man, and like deep guys, and like we're sitting there BSing, and then like everybody kind of just started to get up and like pack up, and the one roadie who had never met me looks at me, he goes, "So what do you do?" And like all the guys turned around and looked like, what the hell is Scott gonna say? And I paused for a minute. I was like, think of me like the white Morpheus. Like I want to go around and wake people up.
Got it.
That's it. Like, who am I?
Well, let's just go there,
I'm an awakener. Yeah.
So like, okay, all right.
How did that happen?
Why? How did we fall so deeply asleep then?
We as a people.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, Louise. God, I always start with pharmaceuticals. But TVs, programming, it's designed. I saw a meme that said the system isn't broken, it's built this way. So a lot of it is consumerism and TV programming and, I mean, pharmaceuticals, those sort of things. Those put us to sleep. I don't know what happened. We lost a lot of our teachers. We lost our medicine men. That's what it is. To me, that's one of the cores of it.
Okay.
We lost those, like in ancient societies, not so ancient societies, village elders, and still in some societies, village elders are like revered. What do we do with our elders in America?
Throw them in a home.
Yeah.
Forget about them.
Right.
Give them to New York so they can die of COVID.
Yeah, right.
That's what the news tells us.
Yeah.
Right?
So I think that's a big part of it. We're losing our elders. We're losing mentorship.
Yeah.
So when we're thrown into the world, when we hit our teenage years and we think our parents are stupid and don't know anything, and we think we know everything, we go through the hormonal imbalance of our brains in the teenage years, and then 18, you got to go and be an adult. and we got no one.
Magically.
We got no. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
We got no one leading us.
Yeah.
So I think that is, and then we're just out there alone.
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to have a tribe. That saying, it takes a village to raise a child.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very important, because it's even, now we're having, two parents or one parent trying to raise a child and thinking like they have to do it, and that's not the way it's supposed to work.
You know what's funny about that phrase? That phrase was co-opted by both political ideologies. One embraced it to mean what they wanted to mean. The other embraced it as meaning it was taking away from the importance of the family unit.
Family unit.
Meanwhile, when I hear someone say it takes a village, I don't get either one of those definitions really. To me, it means something different. It means like us contributing to the greater good is so important beyond what we do for our unit. Mm-hmm. And if we ignore the greater good, this is how I interpret it.
Yeah.
That we do it at our own peril.
Yeah.
That's how I view it. Which I don't put a political spin on that phrase.
Right.
But
it shouldn't. I never thought about the political spin.
Yeah, they use it. They use it.
They use everything.
Right.
Programming.
Right.
We're being programmed.
Okay, so we're being programmed. So has that been accelerated over the last couple of decades? Naturally, with the creation of television and the increased technology that
North Korea's got nothing on America's propaganda game. There's a line from John Mayer's song "Waiting for the World to Change" when he says, "When you own the information, you can bend it all you want." We're told what they want us to hear every single day. We're going to get deep into that.
Yeah, we are going to get deep. This is going to be good. Well,
how many hours do we have?
Well, we got as long as you can go.
My 120 seconds up.
As long as you can go. Okay, so this goes down so many different directions, and if Shannon hasn't mentioned to you, we also do which is a little off the deep end. We do a UFO and paranormal show as well too. We talk about reality and so forth. So the metaphysical will blend in there
a little. Me and you, but we just.
Yeah, I want to stay away from these. That's real cool. Speculative stuff. I want to talk more about what's in front of our face.
Right.
This round.
Yeah, I think. When we talk, Brave New World by Huxley.
Yeah.
That's
talk
prophetic.
About that book.
It's absolutely prophetic.
Okay, so talk about that book. I have not read it.
Right.
I'm aware of it, and I'm aware of it now more since our last conversation, but I've not read it yet.
Yeah,
so,
everybody knows 1984 by Orwell, which was written in the 50s, I think early 50s.
And poorly adapted to film.
Right.
I didn't find the film that great
horrible.
compared to the book.
Yeah. But so that was written in the 50s. Everybody knows that. That's communism. You're controlled through fear. Huxley's idea, which was in 33 or 35, I think he wrote Brave New World, will be controlled and will like it. So it was the three main tenets of the book are all information is controlled by a small amount of people. So you have in the United States over 3,800 media outlets controlled by 5 corporations now that Disney bought Fox. Will be controlled by pharmaceuticals. And the pharmaceutical in Brave New World is called Soma, which today in modern society is a highly abused muscle relaxer. So some group sat in a boardroom and said, "Can I swear?"
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Are you fucking kidding me? You can swear? Where do you think you are?
Right, I know. They sat in the boardroom and they said, "Fuck it, we'll call it Soma. They'll eat it by the handful. They'll never know." I mean, that's how diabolical this part of the machine is.
Right.
And the third was the sexualization of children, which you see in that Cuties thing on Netflix, which I don't want to get too deep into. That's a whole different subject. Yeah. But that's those things, those 3 things, that's nearly 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of will be controlled and will like it. They use the TV as programming. They even have people that go to sleep at night listening to a certain thing, and it's I mean, I'm not saying it's there. It's just it's behind the curtain. It's the Wizard of Oz, man. It's behind the curtain they're doing it. I mean, you look at Rockefeller said it when they were developing what is now, I guess, the Department of Education. He was like, "We want worker bees. We don't want thinkers." Like, there's quotes of him saying it.
Right.
Like, the school day mimics a factory day for a reason. They want people to not think. I listened to a podcast. I think it's called Speaking of Jung, and might have been even interviewing Hillman, who's like a second or third generation Jungian, and they were like, "Where's the state of psychoanalysis in Western culture?" Meaning, Western Europe and America. And he's like, "Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. It's slipping." Because now what do our psychologists do? They barely sit with people. Is it psychologists or psychiatrists that prescribe the medicines?
Psychiatrist, right?
Psychiatrist, yeah. So that, it's like, here, that's the answer today in America.
To everything.
Yeah, everything.
Take the pill.
You see those commercials, and it's like a cloud, and it's like, well, something Faleva work for you. And they don't tell you what it does. Ask your doctor. But
what are you asking about? What
this
symptom are you trying
to?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. The doctor's getting a kickback, right?
What's
of course
your
it'll
symptom?
work, right? They tell you all the. But it's I'm too happy, take a pill. I'm too sad, take a pill. I got too much energy, and that goes back, man. That's like there's a Netflix documentary called "Take Your Pills" about the ADD, ADHD generation of. But that goes back. They're still giving. I took a drug 101 class when I was out in Santa Fe, and they're still giving amphetamines to fighter pilots, man.
It's crazy.
And now the big thing now, which I just found out like 2 weeks ago, because I'm big on my soapbox about this stuff, is now they're prescribing adults Adderall and Ritalin.
Yes,
that's the new
that
target.
I'm aware of. Yeah.
And the FDA also approved to give it to 4-year-olds.
Is it easy enough to, or is it too easy to say that, or just give up and say, "Oh, we're in a machine. We can't help ourselves. We can't. We just have to succumb because everybody else is, and it's just what our destiny is." Because I think that's so fatalist.
Oh yeah.
And I don't like being.
Is.
I'm just the way I'm wired. I just question fucking everything. And I just, for the life of me, I just don't believe that I will permit myself to be influenced to that degree. And of course I'm influenced, as everyone is, through life, but
sure,
is it just too easy to just give up?
Oh, it's absolutely easier.
And we'll talk about this, I think, in terms of technology in a second, but
yeah.
What was there a critical point in America's 20th century history, in those 100 years, where something monumental changed there and it started to accelerate society? It was a driver of conditioning and orchestrating society. Like something in the 20s, the 30s, the 40s. Was it technology? Was it a mindset? Was it defeating Hitler? And was it American exceptionalism? What was it that really accelerated where we are now?
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about that?
No, because I always think of in the aspect of, because Peterson and Russell Brand talk about a lot, the aspect of the Industrial Revolution.
Right.
And then, so I don't know
when. You go back
when.
a ways. You go back further then.
That's probably further. Because what I like about that theory is like the men left the house.
Right.
So then you had families being raised by women,
Yeah.
and specifically men being raised by women, not only at home, but teachers were 95% women. So you had that. Again, you have that loss of balance of masculine and feminine, but that's like further back. I mean, in the last 100 years, golly.
I keep saying 100 years, thinking to go back to 1900, it would be the 20s, yeah.
Right.
The roaring 20s.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, well, maybe when they started to like try to really control us. Because if you look at that time, you have prohibition, which was just the government trying to control things. And that's
that worked real well.
Yeah, right. I know. But around that same time, you also had the war on weed. Because, I mean, in the 20s, they had hash bars.
You mean weed won't kill you?
Yeah, they had hash bars in the United States. And then it was an immigration thing.
Yeah.
They didn't want the Mexicans coming up.
Pull that a little closer to you.
They didn't want the Mexicans coming up.
We can pull it. Yeah, you can articulate that thing. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So the war on marijuana was like actually an immigration thing, but they're maybe, because I look at this a lot, is like that's when the government starts to say, what can we get them to do? Like, how can we control them? We'll take away their booze. We'll see how they act. We'll take away their weed. We'll see how they act. There was all these little wars within this country, you know what I mean? And then yeah, maybe the war machine. That's a different thing, though. I don't think. I mean, that's consumerism and things like that. But I think maybe when the government started to see what they could do, I think that's got a lot of what they can get away with.
So, one of the toughest things for people who want to question everything and want to feel like they have a better understanding of how their life is being orchestrated, one of the tough leaps is you look to the top and you say, well, somebody or some group of people have to be organized and hear me out,
right.
and working in orchestration to do all of this. And when you go back through spans of time, that group of people would have to be an ongoing rolling group of people coming in and out because of just the space, the elapse of time. So how do you personally, when you think about that, how do you rectify? Like who's calling the strings?
Yeah.
How'd they get there? Is it only money driven? And are they organized enough? Is it a cabal? An ongoing rolling cabal,
right?
People coming in and out. Like that's the obstacle that I have trouble getting to. Right. It could be that organized.
You know what? It's funny because I don't spend a lot of time actually looking at that because I've been down that rabbit hole before, and it's like 4 a.m. and you're like, wait, Jay-Z and Beyonce are in the Illuminati. Oh my God! So you can look at maybe a specific family. How old are the Rothschilds? How long the Rothschilds been around?
Yeah.
Is it around 100 years? Is it that same time frame you're talking about?
Right.
So I try not to look at that because it'll spin my brain out. Because then it's like I think that'll send me into like the dark places of like, oh, there's nothing we can do about it. Because it's funny, even when I'll talk about those subjects or think about those subjects, rather than focus on that, it'll always shoot universally. It goes beyond that. It goes of opposing forces universally. You know, there's is whatever you want to call it, Kabbalah, Illuminati, other people pulling the strings. Yeah. Like, and people don't know or think about that. And it's right there. It's all the Federal Reserve System. Look at the Federal Reserve System. You know, it's not the United States. It's a group that prints our money and charges us for our money.
Right.
Which is how we incur debt.
No question.
So, I mean, there's definitely, you could look at just that and be like, okay, the Federal Reserve System, you know what I mean? And look who's attached to that and things like, I don't know much about it because I try not to go too deep into that because that takes me away from my purpose. You know what I mean? And of every day going into the world and every person I encounter trying to interact with and connect with and awaken and put the splinter in the mind or plant the seed of doubt or faith or whatever it is. If I focus too much on the Rothschilds or the Kabbalah or the Illuminati, it's going to fry me out and it's going to take me away from my work.
Things that you can actually do.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's what happens is people get like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do, just like you said, because they think this is this powerful elite, whatever it is. I mean, I'm not getting into it. And the other thing we'll get in, I don't know much about it, the reptilians. We'll go there again.
I'm learning daily. I find it all fascinating.
It is fascinating. And I don't discount anything.
You can't. Well, how can you? And that's my argument.
Because I don't know.
Yeah, that's my argument too.
I don't know.
That there's always that if.
Yeah. But I mean, if you would think, like, I try to, as much as I can, like, I think I've always been, like, a searcher and a seeker. But when I got sober, man, like, that, it cleared me out, and I think it connected me to, it cleared out my intuition. So I go with, my intuition's pretty good.
Okay.
Real good. So even when you ask that question, if I can sit for 30 seconds, go, yeah, maybe it's when the government started to try to control us or do little things to get, you know, maybe that's when it got. Because if you look at that, you know, alcohol, weed, you look at the acid experiments they were doing, you look at the, you know, those type of mind control projects and blah, 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 blah. That maybe that's, because then it went into TV and then it went into, so maybe that's where it started, like, hey, what can we get away with?
Yeah.
What can we make these people do? What can we make them afraid of? Russell Brand talks about a lot. You know, they take our basic instincts. And in the recovery world, they talk about this too. Fear and desire. Those are our basic instincts. Capitalism, which, again, love it. We wouldn't be able to sit in this comfortable room and do something like this and drink this fine water from Iceland without it.
You're welcome.
Product plug. And I love it, but that's what it does. If you deny that's what it does, then you're asleep.
Yeah.
It goes off our basic instincts of fear. What Russell Brand's like, fear, stay on your toes out in the plains, like watch out for predators and things like that, desire, procreate, plan food, eat, shelter, Maslow's hierarchy, things like that. But then the capitalism inflates those because they make us good consumers.
Right.
So I think, if you'd in a 30-second answer, this wasn't a 30-second answer, but if you're like, hey, where did it start? I think when the government tried to when they see what they can get away with. Because I've watched it very closely, specifically over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's in my book.
It's moving so fast now, too. Yes. Everything is moving. And what is the title of the book? Or is it untitled? Untitled.
No, it's titled. It's Awakenings. So it's the Awakening series Crossroads.
Okay.
That's this book, and this is a teaser book.
Got it.
You know what I mean? To introduce you a few characters and a few of my ideas, because it's all in there.
Right.
All the ideas of everything we're going to talk about are in this book.
Right.
And the awakening thing comes from my awakening of getting sober.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
So when did that happen?
When did I get sober? August 22nd is my sobriety date, 2013. So
right
7.5 years ago.
Right on.
And just wild. I mean, I grew up in an alcoholic family, Irish Catholic alcoholic family, and had my first drinks at 7, which were not sips. They were like shots of kamikazes. Had my first blackout at 8. Literally got into my mom's bottle of Nikolai in the freezer and woke up with vomit on my wall. I could have died like Jimi Hendrix, John Bottom style,
right.
At 8.
Right.
And had those experiences young and was like, whoa, and had, some traumas and stuff, and started smoking weed when I was 17 and kind of just checked out, closed off, not knowing it, was still kind of like this seeker sort of thing. But, things started to get bad. I started to lose things. I had every rock bottom you can imagine, homelessness, but not not the cardboard sense of the word homelessness, but almost like a unknown self-experiment of couch surfing or sleeping in a shed or on a rooftop or things like it. I probably had places to go, but it's do it
actually
this
sounds
way.
Kind of like an adventure.
Yeah. When I look back, it was, and it was so much of I don't ever remember being taught this, but I knew everything happened for a reason. So I kind of there were times in my life, man, where I go with the flow. It's the Skynyrd song, Like the Breeze.
Right.
And I'll come to a crossroads and look left, right, what feels right, and go that way, and just kind of flow through and allow and let go, which is beautiful.
We have trouble doing that as humans, I've noticed, right?
Yeah.
We are such an indecisive species.
Right.
We were given the ability to reason and to make we have the ability to reason and make decisions, but we're so indecisive, and we really bring so much stress and anxiety to the decision-making process when it comes to our lives.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that?
Yeah, all the time. It's funny because it was, it was getting sober and learning these things. I mean, it's a spiritual journey. I'll back up just a little bit. And so all the rock bottoms, you name it, county jail, nothing crazy, just a few misdemeanors. It's fine. There's no felonies. And it's funny because I'll talk to people and be like, hey, you ever been to county jail? As if everybody's been to county jail. And most people don't go to county jail, But all these rock bottoms, and at the end, it was a spiritual bottom. I've always been a spiritual person connected to, feeling a connection to, seeing the signs and the things, and it was I felt dead inside. I felt far away from, the Creator, and it wasn't okay with me. And it was a series of things, and all these events happened that led me to down this road to standing outside of court for my second DUI, and my Irish lawyer was in rehab in Florida, and his partner was with me, and we're out smoking a cigarette, and he looks at me and he's like, what you're doing now isn't working, why don't you try something else? And I was like, oh, whoa, okay, well,
that's simple.
Right. But because of the pirate, misfit, outlaw I am, if you'd have been like, you got to go to rehab, I'd be like, yeah, screw you. That's not going to happen. But he was like, try something. I was like, oh. So I went up to Gateway.
Because it was logical.
Yeah,
right?
It was logical. I went up to Gateway, and it was also like a, hey, what do you got to lose? Like a try, because I love trying something different. That's my bag, you know? I went up to Gateway for the second time in 6 months, and this time I told the truth about where I was and how my using was and things like that. And they recommended outpatient, which is to still, I guess that's just the way they do it. And that didn't work for me. I still had too much freedom. So it took that was June of 2013. It took another, there was some mess. My mom passed away in the middle of that. Like I grieved as Irishmen should grieve, so I thought. But it was
looking through the bottom of the bottle.
That was the first time, because 2010 was the first time I ever wandered into a rehab, like an outpatient rehab, and asked for help. But 2013, it was like, okay, I think I sat down in outpatient and saw the 12 steps, and I was like, oh, this is it. Like, you know, for lack of a better word, don't let this word scare you off, the God word, but God wants me here. This is the evolution of my spiritual condition. Like, that's who I was as a person. Like, oh, those make sense. Where most people go in rehab, look at those, see that big scary 3-letter word and be like, nope, not for me. I was like, boom. And I was like, I'll still drink and do those. And I'll still smoke weed and do those. And it was, you know, when I went in, man, there was something would happen to me when I got put in jail or when I went to rehab. Like, I felt like that, Mr. Hyde character had to stay outside, that shadow. I didn't fully understand what was happening inside of me, but that persona couldn't come into those places. And I felt, even in county jail, man, like relief, like, oh, like I get a break from myself, you know? So immediately when I walked in inpatient, it was like, boom. And it was like, not only, hey, this is going to make my life easier, but this is why I'm on the planet. And I drank and used because I knew there was a purpose, couldn't find it. It was like, oh, this is it. Like, this is it. And like,
so it was supposed to happen that way.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it had to happen in the struggles and the ways, and I had to lose all the things I had to lose to really cement.
That's hard for a lot of people to grasp, right?
Man, yeah. Yeah. Because I don't think people see it that way. Like, oh, this is the evolution of my spiritual condition. I was searching. I was the guy drunk in a bar, like, we're all angels, man. Like, we're the fallen angels. We got to get together. I
remember guys like that.
Yeah, that was me. You know, we might have been in the same bar. Who knows? You know, I lived in Coraopolis for a little bit. But that was like, it was always a spiritual journey for me. You know, as a young kid, like, it was always that. So when it was like, oh, wait. You know, and then you get this little time and you feel better. I ran a first step workshop in rehab, and the counselor, who I'm still friends with today and who still talks about this, he comes out, he's like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, first step workshop. He's like, I've never seen anything like that. And when I came out, I went back to outpatient with my counselor, who was like an angel, one of my angels, a lifesaver. And she was like, she saw it right away. Oh yeah, this is the work you're going to do. You know what I mean? Like, this is what you're supposed to do.
Did you just felt compelled to get others to see that they needed help, or help?
I wanted people to experience what I had been experienced, which was, and this is, again, if people can follow this, you can. I know you can.
Oh, yeah, man.
But we're circling back to the awakening.
Right.
I experienced an awakening. It's that, you know, they talk about in AA, Bill W. had this, you know, white light moment. Mm-hmm. What they don't talk about is he was under the belladonna treatment, which was an hallucinogenic treatment. So Bill's white light moment was under hallucinogens, which is why he ended up hanging out with Leary and Huxley and doing acid and blah, blah, blah. Right. All of my AA friends will hate me for this, but we should talk about it anyways. It's okay. But that white light moment, and it wasn't like this, it was, for me, it was a steady series of, I describe my relationship with the creators, like, ever see somebody chase around a toddler? Like, ooh, where are you going? Get over here, will you stop? And then they put the toddler in a playpen, like, to contain it.
Got it.
That was my relationship with creator. Like, Scott and my friends, we saw you spinning out of control, and then, county jail, or, you know, this or that. And that started like in the 30s. You know, I tried to be an adult in my like 20s. God, a girl pregnant early, and then had a family and worked in law firms and stuff. And like my early life crisis, I was turned 30, quit my corporate job, joined a rock band, got divorced, and went bananas for 10 years. But that's like and some bad things happen out of it. I still don't have a relationship with my oldest daughter,
Right.
and my ex-wife is not fond of me, rightfully so. But it was like, unfortunately, that's how it had to happen for me.
Got it.
I had to, it's Eminem song, I'm Not Afraid. He says, maybe I had to go there so you didn't have to. And that's kind of the way I look at it. Now I'm having this awakening. I want people to see what happens.
Right.
Just even, I love, we were talking about at work the other night, behind a bar, we're talking about this, the whole January sober. It's like, Rogan talks about this a lot.
Yeah,
man.
he does it, right?
Yeah, like the sober October. And people are seeing like, hey, if I maybe take this, how am I going to feel? Because I remember early on, man, like getting out of rehab, going back to outpatient. I took a job at a car wash that I could walk to. That was career vacation. I'm like, I can concentrate. But I remember walking like headphones in, like beep bopping down the street, like, oh, this feels so good. I'm not hungover. I have this energy, and I'm the sun, and I appreciate the sun and the music. And it was my whole body was like exploding with
like awakening.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the core of it. So like in developing the book, I'm developing a nonprofit, like collaborative wellness community that's Awakenings. So the book was like, well, it's branding. Like I got my fingers in a lot of different things, and I'm like, well, if they all kind of connect, because everything does connect, then maybe the center goes first, maybe the book goes first. Who knows? And it's not like fame and fortune. It's, I want to provide that. Like Morpheus said, the splinter in your mind. Jesus said, JC, I'll call him JC because less people get upset about that. JC said, the mustard seed, like, is small.
Right.
Is a mustard seed. Like, it's that. And I want to go in the world and be like, how can I provide that awakening?
Yeah.
What can I do?
When there's a lot of, not controversy, but there is a school of thought out there that AA is not the only option for people.
Right. Yes.
What is your thoughts on that? Because the conventional wisdom that, at least that I see, is that you can't get sober. You can't get sober until you, number one, get help, but you also must buy into the AA program. There's no other way. Yeah.
It's funny because, like, hands down, AA absolutely saved my life. Absolutely saved my life. I would not be where I am without it. It has this special place in my heart, but I don't participate in it today. And it's nothing that AA did. It was, again, that journey. Like, even you asking that question, not knowing this part of my story, is exactly what happened. I got sober in AA, like, boom, okay, AA and NA, because I had some friends at outpatient that were like, come to an NA meeting. And I was like, hey, this is cool. Okay, great. I did a lot of drugs. I qualify for it. People are like, to this day, like that I
you
work
qualify.
with. Yeah, you qualify. Yeah, I qualify for all the seats, man. You name it. If it's got an A on the end of it. I always tell people, like, not the big three. Like, I never did heroin, crack, or meth. I mean, well, we were at an after-hours club one night and tried to get some coke, and it was brown, and we all kind of looked at each other like, what, should we do this? It could have been brown sugar, who knows? But thankfully I never got in those things. I'd probably be dead, or other people would be, or the jail sentence would have been longer.
See, so my crazy viewpoint, because my viewpoints are typically crazy, is that what I see as an outsider with AA is I see some people being so dependent on the AA meetings and their conversations with their groups of people that I determine in my brain that AA has replaced the alcohol with another form of dependency. Although that dependency won't kill you or kill anybody else, it still is a dependency. I've seen. Now, is that a fair assumption or not?
Yes. I think so. It's funny because when I saw it, like, I don't know what it was. Like, early on, I was like, evolution, my spiritual condition. One of the beautiful sayings, and it's all there, man. It's like, it's all there in the AA text, like, spiritual kindergarten. So what does that mean? Like, when we talk about kindergarten, what do you do next? So spiritual kindergarten, and this is... The people who created this system wasn't two alcoholics. I mean, Carl Jung's the grandfather of AA. He told Bill's friend, like, you got a spiritual malady, you need a spiritual cure.
Right.
Like, it was the best doctors and nurses and clergy and two alcoholics. You know, one of which was doctor, one of which was a salesman. But it's like they created a beautiful, beautiful system. But I knew early on, like, spiritual kindergarten, okay, great, this will give me a foundation, which is, you know, biblical idea, the foundation to be able to stand on to do other things. Somebody early on, I saw, I don't know if it was a lead or it was a rehab counselor, whatever, put like a bottle of water down like right here, and like the more things I put in between me and my addiction, the better off I'll be. And he walked across the room, you know, rehab, meetings, sponsor, prayer, meditation, therapy, like boom, boom, boom. And he's like, now if I take one away at rehab, then I'm still this far distanced. And I took that very seriously. So I, you know, for me, it was like, okay, the AA is it'll help. But even when I went out, I was, how sober was I when I moved out to New Mexico? I was 2016. So almost 2.5 years. And I went back to school because I knew I wanted to do the counseling, and I'm trying to sort through, do I want to spend all this money to be a therapist, blah, blah, blah. Right. But I'm in school and she's like hating on AA a little bit. And I was like, you know, because I was this is the way, because I thought this is the only way. Like, I was still the steps, or it's because it's a gorgeous program. It's a beautiful, like, everybody in the world should do a 12-step program. Doesn't that sound like a fucking
cult to you, though?
Well, yeah, but look at the definitions of cult. Is it trying to take anything from you? No. That's the big thing with it being. It does. It can sound like that, absolutely. Okay. But that was it. It was like, I was like, this is the way. You know, the Mandalorian, this is the way.
Got it.
But luckily had a bunch of experiences that showed me, oh, this isn't the only way. And then when I came back, was working in a hotel for a while, get a call from my angel past rehab counselor. Was like, I got a job for you. And I went to work at this unbelievable rehab up in like near Butler, and they pulled out Refuge Recovery, which is a Buddha-based recovery system, NAAA. Like, we were doing writing programs, art therapy, meditation, yoga, and it was like, oh. So it was all these experiences led me to believe, no, there's absolute. And then working in the recovery advocacy world with the Pittsburgh Recovery Walk and things like that, and they're heavy on that. Like, I don't care what you're doing for your recovery, get there however you need to get there. So that was a beautiful thing. AA is unbelievable and can help a lot of people, but I knew I wasn't going to be. There's guys in there who are 80 and they're 5 days a week, and it's like, but hey, that's their path.
Okay, so this is where I really struggle as someone who doesn't. Luckily, and it's luck that I don't need it. Okay, but it could happen tomorrow. I'm aware of that.
Yeah. There's a ball and a bullet right there.
Yes, there is. I haven't touched alcohol in a year almost.
Right, that's amazing.
Yeah, but see, that's where it's kind of like, this is where I struggle. And I'm probably not the most sympathetic ear, is that I had a father who was very much into discipline, not like in the harsh discipline of children, but in the personal discipline of like, if you're going to fucking do something,
do it.
You go do it.
Yeah. Rub dirt in it. Take a lap.
Well, no.
Pull your bootstraps up.
No. I think no. It really wasn't that way. He was also a loving and sympathetic person, but he was really about personal responsibility was part of it. But he really was a determined person. Like, I saw my father, not always healthily, but take a goal and just obsess about it and go fucking do it. So when I decided to do something, Scott, there's no failure.
Yeah.
When I said I wasn't going to drink, I just decided I wasn't going to drink, and and I wasn't an alcoholic. I didn't think so. I wasn't drinking every day.
Yeah. What is that though?
Yeah, good question.
There's
I didn't feel a compelling physical need to drink, so I think probably it was easier for me just to not do it anymore.
Right.
I guess that's where someone with my quirky mindset finds it hard to understand how you could trade the bottle in, but then now, like, you're going to attend a meeting for an hour or two every fucking night, 5 days a week, for like the rest of your life.
Yeah.
That almost sounds more horrible than freaking hitting the bottle. It isn't, but it sounds like it is.
Yeah.
You're bound to something else now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get that.
I see that aspect of it.
I don't get it.
I see that aspect of it for sure. Because not everybody's going to see it the way I saw it. My path, I look at things from a macro level. So my path was very much like, okay, very early on, before I even got sober, okay, this isn't going to be a 5-day-a-week thing for me. Like, I see the 80-year-old guys, love them. They're helping people in their way.
Has it become a social thing for them?
Oh, God, yeah.
Is it
it's a community. We all want community.
Yeah, and I don't begrudge them that. I'm looking at it just in an analytical, purely black and white way.
Right.
It looks like a tremendous commitment.
We can't look at anything black and white.
I know, and that's the problem. Is I try sometimes to do that when I know I shouldn't be. And this is a great example. This is a great example where you can't view that person's. It's not an addiction; it's a choice. They're choosing to go to those meetings 5 days a week because they get something out of it, and I respect it, man.
Sure.
I just don't know with the time I have left would I want to commit to doing that. Now maybe it's either that or like kill myself with alcohol. I probably would go to the meeting.
Sure, right. And that's how many people see it. And it is. It's like I always want to caveat, AA saved my life. I love the AA program. It's amazing. But like you're told, like it's do this or die. You know what I mean? And that's a lot, because. Or
never take another drink or you will fall off the wagon and die.
But that one I sort of prescribe to because I've seen it so much. And there are things that I do, and we'll get into that more, that I would never recommend to anyone I'm working in recovery. I put myself right in the fire.
Well, you're working
me.
in the field.
Sure. I'm making drinks every day. You know what I mean? Like I'm promoting it. It's tough sometimes spiritually. It took me a while to get there, but like, I've seen the guy with 15, 21 years sober, whatever, like go back out. A lawyer that I met in it was like I did outpatient, didn't work, inpatient, outpatient, men's relapse prevention program, therapy, like all these things. And I met him in there, 15 years sober. He's like, life was good, man. And the family was away, and I decided to get a bottle of Jack, and 2 days later he had a DUI. Like the overwhelming story is that, because there's, again, how do you define the alcoholic? To me, addiction is if it's negatively affecting your life. My dad was a functional alcoholic. He died at 53 years old of congestive heart failure related to an alcohol-related heart attack. So yeah, he was a functional alcoholic, but you know what I mean? So it's like addiction is when it starts to affect your life negatively. And then for me, it was jail, homelessness, spiritual, it's different for everybody, I think. But like, because when you say, hey, if someone says, am I an alcoholic? Well, how much do you drink? You know what I mean? What does it mean to you? Do you rely on it? Do you have a physical reliance on it? Is it making your life bad? Because what addiction and alcohol and all those substances tell you is, well, you're not as bad as them. The heroin addict, or let's just start with the pill addict, someone addicted to opiates. Well, I'm not snorting them. And then the person snorting them, well, I'm not shooting them. And then the person's shooting them, well, I'm not selling my body for it. You know what I mean? Like there's always that, I'm not the Skid Row bomb. I'm not physically dependent. So that's
the big lie.
Sure.
Right there. That's the big one, right?
Hangovers are a physical dependency on alcohol. It's when I went into rehab, they were like, do you have alcohol withdrawal? And I'm like, no, I'm getting older and, I have worse hangovers. I drink more. Well, what happens? Well, I shake. My heart beats real fast. I sweat. Sometimes she's like, yeah, that's alcohol withdrawal. And then I learned that all alcohol is the most dangerous drug in the world is alcohol. It's the only drug that affects every cell of your body negatively. So any hangover is your body going, no, don't. Don't put that, I don't want that poison in me. You know what I mean? And there's plenty of people who can drink, quote unquote, successfully. There are people that will go have a glass of wine, not finish a glass of wine. You know what I mean? That was not my path. It's not the path of people with drinking problems or alcoholism. But
Isn't that amazing to you, though, that we're so wired differently as humans? Like one human, like, because I never had a problem with alcohol. And I could have 5 beers.
Sure.
And then not have it for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, I'd never even give it a second thought.
Right. But why'd you decide to stop it?
I stopped it because, that's a good question. I stopped it because I thought it was contributing negatively to my weight, and I wanted to drop weight as well. And I said, well, that's calories that are just not doing anything for me.
Were you a beer drinker?
Yeah. Not every day,
right?
But
it
when
was
I would drink, I'd pound 5, 6, 7 over the course of an evening.
Yeah,
and I would start counting calories. Like that's a lot. That's a lot of carbohydrates, right? And I knew that long term it wouldn't serve me well. You know, so why didn't you? So I didn't find it hard just to quit.
Right.
It sucks because there are times people were having cocktails around me, and I'd like to, out of habit, do it. But once I start talking with them, you know what it is? It's almost like I find it weird. I have to then think about what am I going to drink in place of that. You know, it's been amazing.
It's a common theme.
But you know what? Once I realized that there are better non-alcoholic beers other than O'Doul's, I found a couple that taste somewhat like beer. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I don't need it.
It's so funny. What I love about working in the recovery field, and I don't work professionally now. I don't work for a rehab anymore. I've done that a few times. Unfortunately, I don't have a degree. I'll sit in rooms with doctors and master's level therapists, and they'll look at me and be like, where did you come up with it? Nah, I don't have a degree. I don't know. So I don't get paid squat, and I have to work 2 jobs. I'm getting a little old for that. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll just try to work one job and develop my thing. But when I work with people in recovery, what I always say is my favorite thing about it is I don't care your upbringing, your class, your skin color, your sex, your drug of choice. It says the same thing every time. It absolutely says the same. And it's what you just said. So many people, if I go to a work function, what am I going to drink? But you know what? No one gives a shit.
Oh, you're right.
No one cares what you're drinking. If they do, they're an alcoholic. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
If the people that are bugging you going, hey, what are you drinking? Want to drink? What do you mean you don't drink? Yeah, they have drinking problems.
It's more socially acceptable now to say, no, I'm not drinking.
It's beautiful.
The last 10 years, 12, 15 years, something like that?
There was a thing,
DUIs probably have made it more socially acceptable not to do, right?
Yeah, right. But it's, what is the Anonymous People. There's a film documentary, The Anonymous People, that's gorgeous, beautiful to watch. Because this was like Dick Van Dyke. I can't remember, maybe 80s. When was Reagan in office?
80s. 80 to 87.
Yeah, so it was pre-Reagan, a lot of celebrities were coming out. They had Senate hearings, big things like, "Hey, we're sober."
Late 70s.
It was, late 70s. Because there's old pictures of like AA meetings where they were wearing like Cato mask, man. Like it was this anonymous, like secret society.
Yeah.
And then people started to say, "Hey, let's come out and let's inspire people with our stories." And then the war on drugs happened, and then Just Say No happened, and then it became this bad thing, and blah blah blah. And it dismantled it. But like you said, over the last 10 years, you look at, and celebrities are big. People worship him, man.
Yeah, they drive
You know what
society,
I mean? But you see it. Look at Robert Downey Jr., dude. Like, I use his line all the time, like, because when I tell people, if I could be serving them a drink and I'm telling them my story, but like to break the ice, I'll always be like, yeah, I'm allergic to alcohol. People are like, look at me like, oh. And I'm like, yeah, I break out in handcuffs. You know, which is Robert Downey Jr.'s line. He's like, I'm allergic to drugs and alcohol. I break out in handcuffs. And it eases the weight of the room, and we can laugh and we can talk.
Yeah.
But you look at that cat, man, unbelievably talented guy, and was just like had a hooker locked in a fucking closet in New York City with a bunch of coke and like going to jail. Now he's one of the biggest movie stars in the world. Yeah. Is that just because he got sober? Probably not, but did it help?
That's the only thing.
Is he living it? Bradley Cooper.
It wouldn't have happened if he'd not done
Bradley Cooper, Russell Brand, Russell Crowe, I think even, Brad Pitt, man. And they're talking about it. Brad Pitt, when he won an Oscar, he was like, or his Golden Globe, thanks to Bradley for helping me get sober. Like, what? You know what I mean? Ben Affleck, all these celebrities are coming out. Anthony Hopkins just celebrated 45 years. Danny Trejo, 52 years. I think that's a lot to do with it. That has helped move which is gorgeous to me. It's beautiful because we all have a story. You know what I mean? I love to tell my story because when I first got sober, I was social media. I don't know why I was super out about it. I knew woo. And I mean, in the beginning, I'd post my coin on Facebook, and it made me, I wanted to feel good. I wanted acknowledgement.
Absolutely.
But then I started to see other people reaching out to me, because everybody knew the alcoholic I was, man. It was not good.
Party time.
Yeah, it was, and it was, there were a lot of good stories and fun times, but it wasn't good at the end, and people knew that, and they're like, whoa, this cat's sober? I remember running into the bouncer, Derek from Quaker Steak up in Cranberry, and he's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. I was like, oh, I'm in AA. He's like, nice. You know what I mean? There was only one guy that was a restaurant owner up there. I'll save his name. But one person was like, oh, I didn't know you were an alcoholic. And I'm like, really, dude? I would come in and drink a bottle of Jameson and now, I just thought you liked to drink a lot. No, he was an alcoholic, man. He didn't want to admit it. He doesn't want to look in the mirror. But for me,
no doubt.
I started to see it very early on, if I share this story, it's going to help others. And it's wild, man. It's beautiful. I had this woman message me on Instagram, somehow found the Adventures in Recovery page. And on Instagram, I was like, sent me a message, can I get sober on my own? And I was like, yeah, probably, but why would you want to? And that goes back to your thing, you know what I mean? That's the idea is it's community. We need community. We need a tribe. So these people in AA are finding a community and finding a tribe, no different than a religious person is finding a tribe at a church, or, survivors of cancer, or survivors of all these horrible things. That's why self-help. It's funny because they're called self-help groups. I
know.
But no,
it's very interesting.
I just never thought about it.
Self-help.
But there's beautiful aspects to AA. There's unbelievably gorgeous. It's an unbelievable system. The AA book, big book. If you think you're alcoholic or have a drinking problem or know someone, that is the quintessential Bible on alcoholism to this day, and it was written in 33. Man, it's nothing defines it better.
You can't argue the success.
Yeah,
it's successful. Right?
Yeah, but it's meant to be spiritual kindergarten. If you feel that you have a spiritual sickness, if you want to evolve, as we all should, if you feel that awakening, even if it's just oh, my body feels better, and I feel I feel a little clearer, and I can do my work better, and maybe my relationships are better, and then move on and go to other things.
Right.
There's people go to AA, don't do the 12 steps, man, or do them once and think you only have to do them once. The 12-step program. Richard Rohr, who's a Christian mystic. Beautiful stuff. If you never read or listened to any of his stuff, he's unbelievable. He's out in Albuquerque, his center. He said the 12 steps is the West's greatest contribution to spiritual development, which is it's there are churches now that teach it to quote unquote normal people.
Yeah.
Russell Brand's one book, Recovery, is we're all addicted to something. Celebrity magazines, television, working out, money, relationships.
Are we blending the word addiction with habit? I mean, is that a fair assumption?
Again, to me, if you want a simple definition, does it affect your life negatively? If you stop a substance, maybe, or maybe you have no substance, but you're running every day 4 hours a day and you're not seeing your family, or maybe it's affecting your work, or if you're if you're so wrapped up in the Kardashians that you're following them on social media and watching their sickening show and things like that, you know what I mean? So how that, to me, again, addiction, simple definition, is it negatively affecting your life? What does that mean?
Well, and the problem is that requires self-reflection and self-awareness.
Which no one wants to do.
That's the hard thing to do. I mean, and of course, we always view ourselves better than what we deep down inside know we are.
Sure. Yeah,
So
because we want to. It's
leads to
easier.
fucking denial.
Sure. Yeah, we'll project that. We'll put a mask on. But like the workaholic, you were talking about your dad would drive into projects and da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, not always a good outcome.
Right.
Not always a good outcome.
Right. And are you sacrificing the workaholic? We're like, well, look, they're successful and capitalism tells us this is what we're supposed to do. Yeah, but you have no life and then you're going to die at 60 of maybe a stress-related heart attack. And then what? You laying on your deathbed going, oh man, I wish I would have worked more. No, ever, never.
Right.
But we don't see it. The work, the person who's competitive bodybuilder or runs those ultra marathons, man, like 100 miles, like whoop. You know what I mean? Like, is this all? And it's hard because we look at those and go, look, they're healthy. Are they?
Yeah.
I think we all start to look in AA. Again, you'll hear me say that a lot because I learned a lot of things there. And it relates to a lot of things in life because it's a spiritual program. There's a hole in our chest and we're trying to fill it with money, work, relationship, pornography, sex,
Right.
food,
Right.
but only spirit, only some sort of spirit. We're spiritual people. We're the, what is it? We're not human beings having a spiritual experience. We're spiritual beings having a human experience. So we're always trying to go back to that. It's spirit. Call it whatever you want. You know? You know what we should do? You know what? Let's do. I've never met an atheist who's truly an atheist.
Wait, what?
I've never met an atheist who's truly an atheist.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
You mentioned
to me.
that last conversation.
I can unpack them in about half an hour. They're mad at God or religion.
How would you unpack an atheist belief?
All right, wait first because I had this thought before I lose it. Maybe at the end of the podcast, your listeners or viewers can tell me who I am in 60 seconds or 120 seconds. I don't know. I'll have to write that. I got to come back to that. At the Vision
I gave you 120 seconds.
120 seconds. At the Vision Quest, when I went and did the Vision Quest, and we'll go deeper into this either later or on another one. You had to write out basically almost a mission statement for yourself. So I'll bring that next time.
So
But
atheists,
the
you don't
atheist-
believe in the concept of
God,
being,
no.
Okay.
No. Because why? Atheists are nihilists.
Right.
Just then jump off a bridge. Like, what is the point? That's hard for me. So here's a good story. I recently met this couple when I was working at Bonefish Grill bartending.
Right.
And well, here's the problem with when I tell stories. We'll back this up a little bit. I was out of work and I went there for an interview. And the interview went really cool. The guy who was the managing partner, he's a Libra. And I always get along with Libras because I'm a Libra. But when we sat down in the interview, he was like, tell me about yourself. And I started telling him career-wise.
20 seconds.
Yeah, and he stopped me and he was like, no, tell me about you. And we talked for an hour and it was really cool. And at the end, he's like, well, bad news is I don't hire bartenders. And I'm like, well, I answered a bartending ad. He's like, no, you got to wait tables first. So blah, blah, blah. Waited tables for 14 months, which actually ended up being cool because that was the one thing I didn't like to do in a restaurant. Wasn't very good at, and I got pretty good at it. And so, but when I was getting ready to bartend, they were like, well, why do you want to bartend? I was like, arguably bartenders are the oldest therapists. So I wanted that interaction, that classic, towel over the shoulder, wiping the bar, tell me your problems,
Right.
So I meet this couple, who I'm still friends with. They're wonderful. We clicked on Joseph Campbell and Peterson and
Right. Yeah.
this guy and then they'd come in at least once a week, and see me. And it was probably maybe the fifth time they were in. I don't know how we got onto it because when you meet me, we're not talking about weather or the sports. We're going in. So he said he was an atheist. And I was like, no, you're not. I was like, because I'm like, there's no way.
I'm sure that went over well.
Because but it was beautiful because it's all, we can have complicated conversations.
Right.
It's all our ability to be able to talk. So we're still having the conversation to this day, 6, 8, 2020. A year and a half later. But I was like, my biggest thing with him, so as we're trying to unpack this, and he's a huge Marvel fan, and he's into mythology and all this, and I'm like, then you know.
Right.
And it was funny because one conversation, we were talking, and I was like, well, what about Obi-Wan? He's like, well, Obi-Wan doesn't exist, Obi-Wan Kenobi from Star Wars. And I was like, doesn't he? You know what I mean? Like, no, the Jedi with the light sword and in space. No, he doesn't exist that we know of in a parallel universe, maybe. But the mentor, the mentor, the wizard, the shaman, that's Obi-Wan is all of these things. I mean, what George Lucas did is unbelievable. So in this conversation, what I kind of said to him is like, to me, being an atheist, so you, Tucker, to say that you're an atheist to me is like, I don't want you to lose your sense of wonder, man. I don't want you to lose the idea of the magic in the world.
Fair enough.
And like, how could you go through life like that? And I mean, I believe so deeply because I've experienced things that leave no doubt that there is some creative force out there. Like my definition today, I was working at this rehab and we had a gratitude circle, and one morning I was like, I'm glad I have a loving higher power that I don't have to put a label on or understand. And that's been the greatest thing in my spiritual development. I believe there's a creative mind to the universe. There's something out there that had built all this. Crazy, not random, no way, sorry. But loves us and cares about us and is trying to get our attention again. So like to go through life and think there's nothing, and then there's nothing that comes after this, and like it's like, so in unpacking age, and we can do it on this podcast, man. I'm telling you, I love it. It's one of my favorite things is like to get into conversations with maybe a hardcore Catholic or an atheist, two of my favorite things, because I have been given the ability to like get in where other people can't.
Have you?
Because I don't come off as threatening.
Right. Are you familiar with Christopher Hitchens? Yeah, he was a hell of a writer. Did he write The God Delusion, or did Dawkins write The God Delusion? Richard Dawkins.
I don't know.
One of the two wrote the book The God Delusion, and he's a famous atheist. And he's had, if you can go on YouTube, you will find some entanglements that your mind will be blown.
Right. And I've seen enough. I know it. But again, like as I wrote in the front of that Peterson book, we're all trying to make order out of chaos. Yeah. That's all we're trying to do. But like generally in a half an hour to an hour long conversation with an atheist, I'll see where they're mad at God or mad at religion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Or the religious experiment, or you know what experiment I said.
You did say experiment.
Oh, there you go. Jungian slip.
No doubt. No doubt.
But that's like, no, they're not. No. How can you believe in nothing? Why are you here then? Jump off a bridge. That sounds terrible. All atheists. I'm not promoting suicide. But I just don't understand how somebody could be a nihilist or an atheist. Like, why? Because I don't want, at 48 years old, and I'm quite sure I'd be diagnosed with ADD or ADHD, I cannot get over the wonder of everything.
Yeah, I'm there
everything.
With you. I'm there with
all
you.
Of it, man. What we're doing now.
It's people, a curse.
It's gorgeous.
No, to be that curious, to be that curious.
Love it.
Yes, I generally do too. Most of the time.
Well, did you see? We talked about this. I think. Did we talk about the Peterson and Elon Musk interview? And Elon Musk Peterson was like, "Oh, it must be great." And Elon Musk was like, "You wouldn't want to be in my head." I was like, "Oh, I get that, dude." You know, but that's like a lot of what sobriety has done for me, and the path of spiritual and personal development is like been able to calm those voices. Been able to. I remember like when I got really into meditation. Like having this experience where all of a sudden it was like I was rocketed out of my head, and I was watching the argument inside my head, and it was like, whoa, I was a spectator to that, and it's told, it's in the cartoons when we grow up, man, shoulder angel, shoulder devil.
Yeah.
It's all there.
Yeah.
But the atheism thing, I think it would be a cool show. You know what I mean?
I think
because that's what Peterson and Sam Harris did.
I know.
They did like what, 5? You know what I mean? I don't know how far they got, but
I have to go back. I saw 2 of them.
Oh, they're so good.
I need to go back and.
They're so good. They're so good.
There's some. Let's just briefly talk about the people that you're listening to now or had the past 10 years. Obviously, Jordan Peterson. We found common ground there for sure.
Oh yeah. It was funny. I was thinking this before I came here today. He's definitely the most influential figure in my life today. When you talk about from those realms, why do you define him as being so great? Because so for me personally, and then I'll say like what I think he's doing is beautiful. Is like my buddy Doug introduced me to Joseph Campbell, and George Lucas did too, because Joseph Campbell, a mythologist, inspired Lucas to write. But I got into Jung before I went and did Vision Quest work, and I was like, oof. So Jung, my biggest influences were probably Jung and Campbell. And when I work with people and I say teach, my youngest is a teacher. Both my kids are teachers. My youngest is a teacher, and I was like, oh, if I had to do it again, I'd be a teacher. And she was like, Dad, you are. And I was like, oh, you're awesome. But so I teach using modern media. I grew up I love movies, and I think those are our modern prophets, man.
It's a way to reach people too, because they're so entwined in it.
Right. It's a relatable. So it's like, boom,
Exactly.
And so Jung, Campbell, the use of modern media, that's what Peterson is, man. He's like on the archetype thing. He's on Jung and Campbell, and he'll do a lecture like he was University of Harvard and University of Toronto psychology professor. He'll do one of the best things. You want an introduction to Peterson, the Harry Potter one.
Yeah.
Search Jordan Peterson, Harry Potter, and he'll unpack it where it is biblically, mythologically, psychologically. It's unbelievable. Because I can listen to synopses as young, but you try to read Carl Jung,
tough.
And I consider myself a smart guy.
It's very academic.
But Peterson, and reading Peterson ain't easy, but his lectures, like he unpacks it very well. When you listen to him,
his written words are harder. Yes,
because it's entwined in a lot of things.
You need to listen to him first, and if you like him after listening to him, then go read.
Right.
But you need to. There's something in that we talked about, that narrative.
Oh God, yeah. He's an unbelievable speaker.
Just
he's
go
a very
to Rogan
charismatic
shows
guy.
With him.
Yes,
that's a good sampler into what he is.
You know what's really if people want to dig deep into it, him on Dr. Oz.
I've not seen. Oh, that's when he talked about his wife being ill?
No, this was way back when.
Prior.
Yeah,
okay.
way back when.
Okay.
But I tell people this is the synopsis of Peterson, because he gets like.
Was his first appearance there? He was.
This was when he first came out.
Yeah.
But there are times where he gets misty, choked up about the people coming up to him saying how they helped him.
Right.
Why I think he's an important historical figure is people don't understand him. People think he's misogynistic, and the Vice News interview was a big thing. They sliced down his interview in 7 minutes, made him look like an asshole, and then someone from Vice News actually said this isn't okay and released the whole thing.
Right.
But he's trying to get people to see the 1,000 points of gray in between every black and white.
Right.
And now,
no question.
And people don't.
No question.
I worked for Cyril Wecht, and he's an amazing, unbelievable, not only soul but mind. Cyril has no concern with how people view him. He's got no time to worry about it, so he comes off gruff. I do the same thing. I'm so busy talking about shit. Peterson's does the same thing, so people are like, oh, he's an asshole. No, he just doesn't have. He's brilliant, and he doesn't have time to worry about how you're going to perceive what he has to say, because he has the things to say.
Right.
So,
and that's what not got him in trouble, but that's why people come at him.
Yeah. Well, he's an easy target,
no question.
And they want to target, and it's
question.
But I think the ability to get people to see gray on the toughest subjects. In that Vice News interview, they're talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. Of course, he knows it exists, but the guy, he says to the guy, "What about lipstick?"
There's an agenda there.
Sure.
I mean, the bottom line is there are some really far out media houses that they're doing hit pieces on anyone.
Oh yeah,
for sport.
Yeah, and that's what's nice. He said what saved him was the fact that he had all these lectures to say so you can't, if people, I get very few people.
Well, he was on the record.
Yeah,
he had so many examples of being on the record.
This is
that
who
was
I am.
The reality of it.
Right. So that's beautiful. But I think that ability to get people to think, put a splinter in the mind, that mustard seed, get people to see.
I think I swallowed one.
Yeah. Every topic, there's 1,000. You look at a very tough topic like pro-life, pro-choice. It's not that simple, man. No topic is that simple.
Life really cut and dry, black and white.
No.
And that's where. Let's go there for a second, because we touched on this. We had our first conversation.
Check mark
together.
to an atheist.
Oh yeah,
an atheist discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
At a future podcast.
No doubt, I'd love to do that.
Yeah,
that would be actually rather lively with the right combatants.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's fun. I love it, man.
The right, left, right. left, right. What a metaphor for politics, right? I hate the fact that it's making reference to something we're so intrinsically part of our body.
Right.
I wish there was two other words out there that
Which
were
one's
connected.
the creative side of our brain? Is it,
The left, I think.
I think so.
I don't know either. That's good. Whatever.
Yeah.
The point being is nothing that we encounter as we maneuver through our lives on this rock is ultimately certain, right?
Nothing
Certainty
is.
is
Right.
non-existent.
Right.
It's a man-made construct in reality, right?
It's the bedtime story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
My point is, if we know that, and inside we know that, we have to know that.
Yeah, but how many people do?
Yet, no, we don't act upon it. See, we are into the quick hit, man. I said it before, and I'll say it again. When I was young in the 70s, as a person going to elementary school and junior high school and high school, we were taught to critically think. We were taught to deductive reasoning. We were taught all these things when we were younger, right? We were taught how to think in terms of maneuvering your day.
Right.
You don't touch the stove if it burns you. Oh, you're not going to do that again.
Right.
You learned a lesson there, right?
Right.
The point I'm trying to say is we don't do that, Scott. We're looking today as adults, grabbing sound bites here, or one network telling us how to think, or this network's telling us how to think. And if we join a team, everything that team believes must be gospel, and everything that's against them must be fucked up.
Yeah,
That's
it right there.
We just don't think. There's no space in between. Talk about Peterson, talk about the gray matter, right?
Right.
The elements of gray, the shades of gray.
All of it.
We don't live in there. We should be living in there. Mm-hmm. We pretend like we know everything and we're dealing with absolutes.
Sure.
It's fucking destroying society.
Right.
There's no doubt about it.
Oh,
Every damn day is
completely,
destroying society.
Yeah.
And I think it does come down to lazy thinking. I think we're better thinkers than we exhibit as a society, but we've forgotten some basic elements. In the year 2021, we have forgotten some basic pre-internet age where you had to go work for your knowledge.
Right. Do you ever try to think of something before you Google it, or you're with a group of friends, you're like, don't look that up yet?
Of course.
We can get there.
I want to try to challenge my brain as much as I can.
Because that's what helps our brain continue to develop.
I just don't think
We need more moderates for sure.
Well, I think we all are moderates, though. In reality, we're in the middle somewhere. We lean. There's no absolutes. We join absolutes and pretend that they're there.
Yeah, but little by little, they're pulling us.
I guess.
To sides.
Well, because
yes.
we're succumbing.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. But that's even when you said, at the end of the day, we know there's nothing certain. 75, 80% of the population doesn't look at that. I don't think.
But they know it, though. They won't admit it.
Yeah.
Is it painful to
admit?
Yeah,
but
is it painful to admit?
Sure. Well, that's why I love, again, Peterson, chaos out of order. We're all trying to make order out of chaos. We are hurtling through space on this giant rock. We are meat-wrapped skeletons, with these unbelievable brains the size of planets, computer-sized planets. Planet-sized computers. So it's when can we grab a little certainty? That's because we want to be we're tethered because we're alone, because we don't have we can't go to the shaman or the medicine man or the elder and be like, well, help me. You know what I mean? So it's easier to just attach to it. And again, programming. If people deny I don't want to talk about it too much. But the political thing, man, it blows my mind.
Talk about anything you want.
I know, but I don't want to talk about it too much. I feel like we have better things to do.
I hate it, but it's
I don't understand how people can watch. Just watch both. Watch Fox News, watch CNN, and you'll see what bullshit. Right.
We don't like to ever.
And I don't understand.
Well, think about this. Let's go a little deeper. Nobody wants to admit they are wrong or might be wrong. So what we do oftentimes is when we know inside we've been proven wrong, we deny it and we go grab a hold of our wrong belief even stronger.
Right. And
we go on that
us.
fucking hill with that belief, right?
With the flag.
Even when we know.
We storm the Capitol.
Exactly. But even how much simpler life would be. Say, you know what? I stand corrected. I made a mistake, and I think that I'm going to make some changes. That's pretty simple to me because I maneuver my life that way.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you point blank, man, I have had I guess let me ask you this, and then you volley back to me.
Okay.
Do you have, or do you believe that you have a personal philosophy?
Oh, sure.
Okay.
Sure.
How many fucking Americans or people of this planet,
Right.
if you ask them that question, what is your personal philosophy? Can't tell you.
Oh, I'm 80%. That's what I mean.
Oh, it's higher
it's
than that.
yeah, probably. Well, oh God, maybe that's the optimist in me.
And if they say, I have personal philosophy, okay, how much time of your life have you ever committed it to paper?
Right.
Have you ever thought about it so much that you wanted to concisely write it in one paragraph?
But I think that it takes that awakening. Like people aren't, oh God. You look at the things that I went through, and a lot I put myself through. A lot of times there's a chapter in another one of my books called Burning the World Down.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because like I would light shit on fire as a kid, literally. And then like as an adult, like blow things up almost unconsciously as a social experiment to see like, so I went through
it's
all
going
these
too
things.
good. Now I'm gonna blow it up.
Now I'm gonna blow that up. That's fear of failure, fear of success, both things. But like I don't think we are so spoiled and so comfortable,
Right.
that it
100%.
takes a dark night of the soul. It takes some serious fucking destruction, man, to really wake up.
And this pandemic isn't something kind of like that for a
You
lot
would
of
think.
people?
No, well, no, but for a lot of people, yes, but for a lot of people, no, as well. Like we'll just stay home, and man, like
If they're on the payroll still, yeah,
right.
I get that. Right,
That's
right,
my
right.
own journey with that was like a wild ride, and thank God that I was sober for that because I'd probably be dead. You know, but it's no, I think it takes like not everybody gets that self-destruction. Not everybody gets. You look at like, so take we were talking about AA. There's less women than there are men in AA. So here's a good. We should volley this to Peterson. How many times does it take to say Jordan Peterson until he sees us? I just want to hang out just
Jordan
once.
Peterson.
Just Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand. Like 4 friends: Jordan Peterson, Russell Brand, you, me. There you go. There's 4.
That's
All
4.
right. But like,
I'd take that show.
Oh my God, I would die. I would.
And I wouldn't open
be
my mouth
happy.
the entire
Nope.
time.
That's what I love about Rogan and Peterson, because I'm on the fence with Rogan.
Yeah.
But like when he has somebody brilliant like that, like Rogan tends to shut up. And it's like, because
Your
he
biggest
gets
bitch
it.
about Rogan is you think he's careless in regards to the
Yes.
legalization of like mushroom
Just-
hallucinogenics.
Yeah, I think it's irresponsible to think that we fuck everything up as humans.
Yeah.
So I think it's irresponsible to think that humans can control this. You know what I mean? Just that everybody could eat
Right.
mushrooms or
Right.
smoke weed or
Right.
drink or,
Right.
you know what I mean, and be like okay, because largely we're not. We're addictive, and our way our brains are wired, man. Like
So, but back to that personal
yeah.
philosophy question. So there is a self-help guru, but really he's not. He's the father of not self-help, what they call it, personal development. Mm-hmm. His name is Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N. He
Okay.
is the person who found Anthony Robbins, believe it or not.
oh, really? Okay.
And he will tell you, he used to tell you when he was alive, he used to say, I found Anthony Robbins and I do not claim him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the whole walking on fire and all that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
right.
But Rohn was like the old grandfatherly type that would give you a lot of good practical advice for life. And I found it very helpful. I was seeking and I found it. But the best thing he did was, as a young person, me hearing this was, he goes, do you have a personal philosophy? What do you believe? And can you articulate it? Can you write it down? And work on that because it's, if you don't have that, if you don't know what you believe, knowing that you have to be adaptable, you know, life is going to make you show you things. But if you're at any point in time, if you're not grounded, you're not principled in what you think is right or wrong or what you believe the world to be, you can't maneuver. That was his whole thing. And you know what? Some of the best advice I ever got. So I know what I believe, and I know what, and yes, I'm adaptable, and yes, I'm
We have to be.
functional. but I know. But when you ask people, if you really enter that conversation, no one that I even know in my sphere could even tell you they have a personal philosophy. I guarantee it.
And here's this is the
easy,
intuition.
though.
This is the intuition. This is like, I have the answer. So recently,
Give it to me.
recently my new job, and I'm open about my story because then good luck walking to anyone on the street and not finding addiction or that sort of thing, even if it's a drinking problem and you're not an alcoholic, whatever.
Got it.
So, and the old GM of the hotel was like, hey, this so-and-so's got kind of a problem. Could you say something? You would keep out, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like walking past him one day. I'm like, listen, no one knows what they're doing. And he just like looked at me. And I don't know where it came from, but it was like, this is now one of my, like, I'll get on things. I was like, listen, if we would all just admit we don't know what we're doing, like, we'll be a lot better because then we can ask for help. So that, to me, the personal philosophy thing, to be able to create a philosophy, you have to admit you don't know what you're doing.
No question.
Right.
So no doubt about it.
But no one wants to admit they don't know what they're doing. Right. We're living. So you have to first
humility.
rock bottom, go into the cave. Campbell said the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. You know, so we got to go to that dark place. We got to, and that's what I think is beautiful about addiction is drugs and alcohol or gambling. Those are the big three that will take you to a dark place pretty quick. But you get to go to the dark place. Yeah. You know, there's like, it's so funny in today's society, like, I saw this meme. It'll be like, I read this book back then. But it's like,
I saw a South Park episode. We went to the tree of something.
I love it. There was a tree of memes. But they work, man. They're like, you know, like everybody, like, on social media. But it's like,
reflections, a mirror. People holding up a mirror to society.
It's like, whoa. And it can change.
Right.
It's beautiful. It can be good. Yeah. But, it's Michael Cera from Arrested Development, and it says, the top one's like, when I see people going through a difficult time, and then it's a line he says like, oh, what a sexy place you're in. Like, that's when I see people going through the darkness, I'm like, oh man, this is like, I'm here. Like, go through the dark night of your soul, like, fall apart, break up. And that's different from everybody, man. But like when they're there, I'm like, this is gonna be so good. And sometimes it can take much time. You know, like that woman I told you about in London, still not sober. This is like 3.5 years later and still in pain, but I see her developing. Like, even eventually she'll get there. I feel it. I believe it. Yeah. But she's developing. Yeah. Something's happening. She's changing because she's in the darkness. You know what I mean? And
so it's humility. You're getting it's the ultimate humility to get there.
Yeah. The minute I think I know something, I'm in trouble. And I'm a stubborn son of a bitch. Right. Everyone around will tell you. But what I try to do at the end of a rant or a conversation, I'll be like, I'll tell a story, and I tell stories differently, you know? Like, I'll be like, hey, or maybe I'm full of shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I try to put that caveat on it because I don't know. I am telling myself a bedtime story. I have this myth laid out so I can lay my head down on the pillow and go to sleep because, you know what? I've been on the other side of it. Right. Like, I was 8, man, when I lost my mind over the infancy of time and space in my bed. And my mom peeked her head in, who was a harder woman and a mean alcoholic, and was like, quit crying. And my dad, who was, you know, also an alcoholic, but very kind soul. Right. Probably the biggest reason I'm the man I am today, like, sat down in the bed and, like, he would pet my head and be like, the answers are coming. And poof, cool. You know, but, like, I was that young when I was thinking about the infancy of time and space. Like, what the fuck? Right. I can't sleep. That was, you know, what are they going to do? Modern days, they'll pump you full of amphetamines. Right. What? Right. You know, like, I just needed. And before my dad died, he said, go search. Because I questioned, young, 10 years old, what? Tithings. Why are we giving them 10% of our shit? We live in a duplex. Yes, I went to North Allegheny and we lived in McKenna, and we never wanted for anything. But we're still living in a duplex that we're renting, and we're giving them 10% of our shit. And, like, they have gold and marble. Like, as a kid, I'm questioning these things. So the questions, and my dad, before he died, very young, I was like 22, 23, he was like, go search. Go look. Like, my whole life, the answer is coming, the answer is coming, the answer is coming. Go search. But go look for them.
Yeah, but that's hope as well, too.
Sure.
You have to have that.
Sure.
In the human condition, that's one of the necessities. Yeah. Because if not, you are going to jump off the bridge.
Yeah, but today it's not it's not the answers. It's the question. When
Isn't it always
Trinity,
the question,
yeah, but the people don't think that. They want the answer.
It's
Trinity
always the
says to
question.
Neo when she first meets him, I know why you're here. It's the question that drives us. It's the question that brought you here.
It's always the question.
Like, yeah, when I talk to people about, I mean, think about would you grow up? I forget.
Catholic.
Okay, you
Yeah.
grew up Catholic too. They don't want you to ask questions. They're just going to stand on the
No,
pulpit
they
and tell you
still
how it
don't-
is.
They still don't want you to ask questions.
Sure, but it's like that's my God.
Right.
Again, excuse that
Right.
word if it bothers you. I'm just using it because it's easy, but it's my God wants me to ask questions, and I knew that very early on. I remember the first kind of and I was 23. No, I was 30. So this was years after Dad died, and I'm dating this girl from Coriopolis.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, and she's the one that got away.
Yeah, that's a conversation off camera.
Yes.
We'll find out.
But so I'm having both her mom and her grandmother were born again Christians, and the good kind, like beautiful
Right,
souls.
right on.
Unbelievable. Me and her mom had the same birthday. Like just gorgeous souls. But we're having this discussion one day, and I'm like, okay, help me like map this out for me. Because they went to this little church with not the gold, and I was like, I dig this kind of, like it felt better.
Yeah, right.
I still love the formality of the Catholic
Sure.
Mass. Reminds me of my
Sure.
dad. At least
Yeah.
they're still being ceremonial. But I was like, okay, Job, the story of Job, which is, one of my favorite stories in the Bible. And it's beautiful because like, I'll tell it the way I used to tell it. So God and the devil get together. This is in the Bible. You can go read it. It's Old Testament. God and the devil get together. This part isn't, and have some Jameson. You know what I mean? And they sit down, they're having a discussion,
How
and
do you
God's
know?
like, yeah, right, yeah. I don't know. They left that part out. But it was like, because God drinks Tullamore Dew. Because it's better. So... God's like, well, how are things to the devil? And the devil's like, And the devil says, well, how are things? And God's like, it's good. I get good people. It's good. And devil says, well, who's your best one? And without hesitation, God says, Job, righteous Job. Devil's like, he only favors you because you favor him. Take something away from Job and he'll smite you. And God steps to the side and says, have at him. The only thing you can't do is kill him. And over a series of conversations, the devil, he kills his family, brings the house down, destroys the livestock. Job's like a leper, blind, I think, sitting in the desert, and all his friends are like, smite God, smite God. And Job's like, no. And he's toned and strong, and then he gets pissed off and yells at God. And God basically, because back in the Old Testament, God would talk to us. That's what they told us. And God was like, who are you to question my plan? Like, I made the behemoth and all these things. Who are you to question me? And Job's like, oh, yeah, you're probably right. And then God restores everything. Now, it doesn't mean he gave him his family back, but maybe he gave him a second chance. But here's this righteous guy. God lets the devil go at him. Now you have the story of Moses. This is the conversation I'm having with the mother and the grandmother of this young woman. And I'm like, then you take Moses, who killed a guy, and he becomes like God's right-hand man. Like, where's the justice in it? And so for, I don't know, an hour. And at the end, it was blind faith. And I was like, nope. But that was one of the first experiences, I think, where it settled in. I think when you turn 30, things like slow down enough to like where you can go, oh, and you can start to look back and be like, wait, all this shit's connected. Mm-hmm. So I think that was one of the ones that settled in where I decided God wants me to ask questions. It's okay.
Right.
He or she does not care.
Don't you think that too? When you're younger, you're more self-absorbed.
Sure.
It's hard to get to that more esoteric way of thinking. Often,
but what?
Maybe not for you.
Why,
for the average person.
But why? Well, that's that's another thing. Why do some people have these experiences and some don't? Is it? I don't believe this. We get one shot. I think it's insane to think that we're here once. Why are some people having? I think the JCs and the Buddhas and the Dalai Lamas, I think they've been here a bunch of times, and they're like, oh, it settles in. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying we can remember the past lives. I don't understand that, but I think definitely like old souls come in and we're like a little like nothing feels right and something's off and something's out of place. It's again, go back to the Matrix. You know what I mean? Like Morpheus says to Neo, like, you knew, it's the splinter in your mind, something's not right. Mm-hmm. And I think it's that same thing with like an old soul is like something, and maybe the new souls, those are the ones that can't look at things. I don't know. Have you watched that Soul movie?
Which
The
one?
new Pixar Disney movie,
No.
dude.
Good?
So you got to watch it. It's all of this shit. It's so good. Like, so many people are like, you got to watch it. Go watch it. It's like, oh, it's really good. Because they even address because people ask me, well, why do we still make new souls? And I'm like, I'm not God. I have a personal relationship with him or her, but I am not him or her, and I don't know.
I think it's very interesting, though, that we're so arrogant to believe,
That we know.
or our God is the right God.
Right.
That's crazy to me. It's
Yes.
crazy to me too that from a Christian standpoint, from what I was taught, is that there's so many contradictions in the scriptures, the entirety of the scriptures, new
All
book,
of
old
it.
book,
Yeah.
and it's funny how children are taught the scriptures and how the elders rectify all the contradictions within the scriptures, and then they tell you just have to believe.
Right. Yeah. Blind faith.
But you've been telling me stories
Right.
that are definitively true.
Sure. Yeah.
They must be true.
Right. Well, go up. Here's the challenge for you. Here's a social experiment. And ask yourself this. Have you ever read the Bible? Like, read it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But ask Catholics that. And I'm telling you, I'll even go 9.5 out of 10. When I read the Bible for the first time, and this was a guy who was interested, 37 days in county jail at 37 years old, first time I ever read the Bible.
Right
you
on.
know what I mean? And like read it and like took notes. Like
you
even
were a
so much as
student.
like the genealogy,
You were a
which
student.
doesn't mean fucking anything. But
Right.
yeah, because we know. Like when I work with somebody in recovery or spiritual development, like when they tell me like, well, when I find my God, I'll be all right. I'm like, oh shit, you're done. You're not going to find it. It's not what it's about. Like God, I'll tell people God doesn't care how we search as long as we do. And the story's there. Like to me, Old Testament, Tower of Babel, man and women are trying to build a tower to God to reach God, and God confuses them, gives them different languages, spread them. It's the story of modern religion. It's parables. The Jonah wasn't swallowed by a whale, people.
Yeah.
It's a story,
Right,
man, that you
right.
can relate to your life, which is why JC taught parables, because he taught what he knew. You know what I mean? Like it's all there. It's all there in the book. And it's like we got people citing Leviticus, but why you can't marry someone of the same sex, and it's like, what? That West Wing Bible speech is one of my favorite to throw around because he like lays this lady out. She's one of those like hardcore Christians, like gays are bad, and it's
I think I
abomination.
seen it a long time ago.
Yeah, it's good.
That was good.
It's very good.
I remember seeing that.
And it's like he's talking about like working on Sunday, like these all
Right.
these things, like these were things of the time.
Right.
Like it was a sin to have sex on
Right.
your period. Like women had to go into a different house. I think it's called the Red Tent or something.
Yep.
And they had to go outside because they were dirty. And you couldn't eat pig because guess what? We didn't know how to cook or clean it. And it was making us sick.
Context.
Yes.
It's a beautiful word if we use it.
Right. But it's, I think, the knowing. That's the problem. That's why even like I love to have a discussion. Because I don't know. And I'll be the first one to admit, I don't know. Here's my story. I've encountered this many things in my life. I have this intuition. This makes sense. And you know what? Everything as I'm going through life, especially now, isn't telling me that it's the wrong path.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like people lean into this shit, man.
Yeah.
Like I have discussions with people
Yeah.
and I can tell a biblical story and throw in some Jameson and God and the devil talking. I mean, that's the story. They sit down and talk. But it's like I can tell it in a way that like disarms people.
Got it.
All
Got
I
it.
want to do
Yeah,
is
yeah,
disarm
yeah, yeah.
people so
Absolutely.
then we can
Absolutely.
have a discussion. And I love to like watch people's body language. Have you read the Celestine Prophecy?
No, I have not.
Okay, I just read it, and it's gorgeous.
Okay.
And you have to get it.
Okay.
So it's a fictional story, but it's all about energy.
Right.
But one of the main premises is the book is when you and I walk away from this conversation, we will both be energized because we're sharing energy, ideas. One of the main premises, we're trying to steal other people's energies. So energy vampires, you've heard these things, but but it lays it out gorgeously. It's beautiful.
Okay.
But it's that when you have a conversation with people, like you can see, like I'll watch them. Oh, you crossed your arms. All right, I'm going a little hard. Like I'll lean back. I'll slow down. All the cues.
No question. And I learned that. Oh my God, neuro-linguistic programming (NLP) from I studied that in the '80s for a while, and modeling, and it was great for interviews and great for business.
Yeah. Motivational interviewing.
Yeah, but it sucked in the end though, because it became manipulative to me. And I purposely, when I started this, it's so funny you brought that up, man, because when I started this podcast, one of the things I said to myself was all the interviewing and the NLP and the modeling that is intrinsic in you and how you conduct your life, because it's so in me now. In any kind of sit down with clients, friends, you got to stop it all.
Yeah, you got to let it go.
You need to breathe, and you got to let the other person interpret your movements. It's hard to backtrack.
Cool.
It's hard to backtrack.
It's cool.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
I took a thing.
The modeling especially.
Yeah. I took it when I got into the Vision Quest work. I did ended up doing 3 in the year, and the last was it was mirror training, the art of active listening, which is way more valuable than any of that shit
I would
just
agree.
talked about.
I know, but it's all kind of derives from NLP. I think.
Yeah. This is like the sit back and listen and be, which is very. I
active
have the
listening.
most difficulty doing it. I listen to you, but I get fired up, man.
Yeah.
You know, I had this Turkish bartender who was awesome, Mustafa. And he just left me. He's terrible, but he's in the desert. I'm so happy for him.
He's in the desert.
Yeah, he's taking a pilgrimage with his husband, man. They're going out to Arizona and they're taking some time. Yeah, they want to be out west and
Good for them.
So it was sad because he's an amazing bartender, an amazing individual, and we were definitely in each other's lives for a reason. But he was still had language barriers, and I talk so much and so fast. He would be like, just look at me, and I would be like, God damn it. He'd be like, you talk so much, and I would take offense to it, and he'd be like, no, I really like it, but it's a lot for me to absorb. So the art of active listening it's hard for me, man.
Because you want to
contribute
I'm excited to it. Yeah,
yes,
I get that.
Because I get excited. That's exactly why.
I get that too.
You know?
We're just.
But I know when now to be okay, and it's just like you said, take a breath.
Yeah, you need that. Yeah, and I'm getting better at it. But you have to. At least I have to cognitively tell myself to do it, because we're so conditioned to be. If you get good at conversation. And I think just, by the grace of whatever, I had that bent. Good in terms of being effective.
Sure.
At least to maneuver my life.
Yeah.
How effective the actual conversations are, I don't know.
Right.
But to really parse that and work on being a better listener is work. You got to want to do it.
Oh, yeah.
You got to want to do
it. Yeah.
And I think that we listen to respond in society as opposed to understand.
One of my favorite scenes from Fight Club is when he first sits, grabs Martha after one of the groups. They're having coffee, and he's like, he wants to call her out. And meanwhile, it's hypocritical because he's doing the same thing she is. And
right.
She's like, why do you come? He's like, I don't know. When people think you're dying, they really listen. And she finishes his sentence and says, instead of waiting for their turn to talk. And I think that movie and that book are so brilliant. And it's that's prophetic, man. But it's that concept. We're waiting for our turn to talk. And I was that.
Yeah.
For so long. So long. And those are some of the things, sobriety and Vision Quest work and personal and spiritual development. I still talk a lot, but I think for me, especially meeting somebody new, I want to get to the depth of the conversation quicker. So I'm here's my philosophy. Plus, my friend Tucker, I told you, he said, during one of, I don't know, the times he came, he was like, man, I don't get how you get people to just give you everything. And I was like, because I give them me first.
No question.
I'm vulnerable, and I'm here's my
humility.
Personal story.
If you come at it with humility, it's amazing.
Yeah.
What people are willing to reveal and discuss.
Here I am. I'm going to open my chest up, and you can have all of me.
Right.
But
most people don't want to do that.
Give me some of you.
But it's uncomfortable.
So sexy. It is, man. I love vulnerability is probably the most gorgeous thing in the world to me, and it's that's That's a big thing. Like the Brene Brown, I'll send it to you. Did you ever see her TED Talk on vulnerability and shame?
Oh, I did.
And Catholics need it the most because we have so much shame. We're so bad.
We walk around with
Right.
we walk around with guilt.
Right. Like what do they call that? I always get it wrong when you hit flagellation. Like, why would they make those words so alike? It's flagellation because I think farting is flatulation.
That's flatulation.
Flagellation is the whipping.
Yeah, when the whipping with the reeds or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah,
right?
well, they got really crazy and had like barbed things, and they were whipping like they What's the first one? The Da Vinci Project. The villain in it is like whipping himself.
Oh yeah,
like,
I haven't seen that in a while.
That's crazy.
That's some heavy shit.
Yeah, but I think like. Yeah, it's vulnerability is the most gorgeous thing in the world to me. Like, and that's why I love like the recovery, the rooms of recovery, like, and it's beautiful because Tucker's like, I don't get how you get people to do it. I'm like, because that's what I want, man. Like, just give me you. It's fine. You're safe because you're not getting judging from me. I don't care what you tell me because if I judge you, I'm gonna judge myself, and that shit's exhausting. It's fucking exhausting.
You're damn right.
I don't want
any.
So I don't have that.
Yeah,
but I said that for years. Like, I'm not the judge. Bullshit.
Yeah.
I was big time judging. But it's like. I think that's what we need. We need more vulnerability with each other because if, again, like wrapping back, if we can say, I don't know what's going on, or there's another chapter in my book called The Path to Being Okay with Not Being Okay. Like, and this wraps in other topics we were talking about, letting go, like the fact that like we want to control things and me especially, like I would say, in being in recovery, like I'm on this path and I got to show people that I'm, not the one, but like I'm doing this thing but I'm not okay. And like, if I can't, I'm not, and I would say to people like when I finally broke down, I'm not okay. I'm not some guru. And they'd be like, no one's asking you to be, but I want to be the guru. You know what I mean? Like I want to project past my own development into the elder years. So I want to be the shaman.
You want control, too, right?
Well, I don't think it's control.
Or is it wisdom?
It's wisdom, yeah. My buddy Doug said it's knowledge, wisdom, and information are the three things. He's expanded that, but this was a favorite one for mine because knowledge you get from the streets or from books, and then wisdom kicks in when you realize that like you are not the only one with that.
Right.
And the information it's just information passing through all of us. Like I'm just a dealer of information.
Agreed.
People are like, how do you know you should be a professor? Blah, 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 blah. No, man, like I've filtered it somehow. It's coming through me.
Got it.
Got it. And it's not attached to me.
Right.
So I don't think it was a control thing. I think it was, I want to be able to hold this ball, man, and I want to be able to like show people.
Got it.
Like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. None of us know what we're doing, and it's okay to break down and be broken and be hurt and like show me your scars, man.
Yeah.
Like show me the most, because that's just beautiful. Like it's gorgeous because then we're fine.
Right.
Like Brand says in one of his talks, like he's talking, I think, about, he has a beautiful talk with like GQ that's like 16 minutes where he lays out the 12 steps because he wrote his book Recovery.
I gotta look at that.
Yeah, it's, and so AA's 12 step or NA's 12 step or whatever, SA, blah, blah. I'm powerless over drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, and my life's become unmanageable. Russell Brand's is, I'm fucked. You know what I mean? Like that's a step one. So
that's called brevity.
Like
you get it right to the point.
Step two is, could I not be fucked? You know what I mean? Step three, whatever. Right. But he's talking about 10, I think, where in 10 in AA, good God, is sought through prayer and meditation to improve my conscious contact with God that's 11. 10 is like a day. 10's the daily inventory. So every day as I'm going through my day, I'm making sure I'm still practicing these daily principles. So he's talking about this step, and he's like, when the cabbie and the bicyclist are about to have a row in the street, they've lost perspective. So 10 is designed to tether you or ground you to this new philosophy. And then if one of them could just be like, you know what, like my father wasn't around and I have scars from that. If they were able to say that to each other in that moment, it's gone. Moment's gone. We've gone vulnerable, and we see, like, I had this road rage experience with this person, and I used to have it bad when I was younger, man. I punched the steering wheel of this is pre-airbag, of my Camry many times.
Yeah, I can't imagine you doing that.
Yeah, I know, right?
At least during the drinking years?
The drinking years were like the 30s. Now, this was 20s where I was just like,
Got it.
I was still attached to that teenager punching holes in the wall. But I punched it so hard that the horn stuck, and I had to rip off the front and disconnect the phone.
Oh, my God.
Or the horn. And this is later on. This is post-sobriety. I'm pulling out onto 910. And, like, I pulled out. Like, I got a lead foot. So I pulled out. And this dude didn't even need to slow down. But he went berserker, man. Like, whipped around me, almost hit me. He was yelling the meanest things I've ever heard in my life. And I'm just sitting there and I'm watching, and like every stoplight, blah, 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 blah. And like I was ready to give it to him, because like psychological warfare back in the day, like you don't want to fuck with it. I will destroy you. You know what I mean? And I used to be really like that, but I don't want to do that to people today. But I leaned out and all I said was, "What's wrong?" Because I remembered that like everybody is going through. He might have just caught his brother in bed with his wife, man.
You never know.
Like this has nothing to do with me.
You never know.
So I leaned out and I was, "What's wrong?" And his face was just like boom, and he put his head back in and just drove away. Like that was the end of it.
Right.
So it's like I hear this brand saying this and I'm like, yep, that sounds right. And then you see it in practice. So if we can all start to go into the world and be like, "What's wrong?" Like it's okay. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know what I'm doing either.
Yep.
That's why I said to this young kid at the hotel, like, "Hey, no one knows what they're doing." Because think what a 22-year-old thinks. Like, "Oh, man, I should know what I'm doing." My daughter's going through like an early life crisis right now, and I love it. You know, I love it, man, because I'm there for her to be like, it's okay.
I totally get it.
And it's going to unlock her entire life. I wish I would have had an early life crisis and not waited till I was 30 and blew shit up. You know what I mean? But like, I love that she's going through it because she's connected. She's so me, man. She's so me. And like, she thought like I'm gonna be like she graduated. She's me, but also way smarter than me and way more disciplined, which is her mother.
Kids
like God bless the
way.
mother, and the mother, whose name we shall not discuss. Just kidding. She's done her. She's awesome.
I'm just letting you hang out there, buddy.
So she's like she graduated high school with an associate's degree and like graduated college at like 21 and like got a job and like got engaged and got married and like now she's 23 and she's like, "Yes, I got it mapped out." And then she's like, "Nope." Which is great to see it, because how many people go their whole life and they just don't try. To figure. I've worked so many careers, man. Like my buddy's like, "Man, you reinvent yourself."
Yeah.
Because I'm searching.
Because you're also living life,
right?
Too. You're actively pursuing your life.
Like I live a modest life. I live a very modest life because you know what? This job, as much as I enjoy it right now, like I'll walk away tomorrow and not blink an eye.
Right.
Like I'm out.
Right.
I don't care. I've worked at the car wash.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I've no, I'm not going to be. I'm not married to a job. If I don't like it, I'm out.
See, that's so much of our lives are defined by our vocation. That's a mistake. Yet,
I hate that.
Most of society does that, though.
Yeah. What's that? What do you do? Shut up. That's what that kid asked me. That roadie asked me, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I'm the white Morpheus." I mean, I'm raising the vibration of the human race. What do you want out of me?
Yeah, that's a really.
How do I pay the bills?
And isn't that so? I mean, we were taught in Sales 101, 30 years ago. What's your elevator speech?
Yeah, right.
Like, and it was so, and that whole contrived thing never sat with me. I just don't. It's the element of quote unquote sales. I don't have it. That's a very good movie. In terms of a young person needs to watch that and realize that, look, this is not sales done right, but there are people that are going to try to take elements of this and push you in a direction, and you need to be aware of that.
Yeah.
We don't do that. That's actually a very good training video.
Yes.
That movie is
like to human part of it. Man.
No doubt.
Jack Lemmon and like even Pacino's part in that. Like
no doubt.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. People always tell me you should be in sales. Like my mother always said to me, "You have your father's gift of sales," and I didn't understand that until I was not. vacating on the toilet, but I'm sitting on the toilet and my young girlfriend's in the bathtub and we're on mushrooms. And like when it like came to me that she was talking about like the golden tongue, like, and it became this big like, whoa, I wrote it down. It was like, whoa, the gift of sales, like my ability to talk, like the ability to talk to people, to engage people, to get, and then it expanded into like, oh, salesmen. So they're given this almost gift of like almost prophecy, or like that gift, which was, you know, the prophets like could talk. And I mean, I guess prophecy is different because you're seeing, I don't know, but you're given this gift and you can use it for good or you can use it for bad. If you use it for bad, it's going to get taken away. You know what I mean? That's not always the case. We have many rich people.
It's a horrible, I think I don't like the word sales. I hate it. But we use it. It's the word we use it. It's a wonderful life for those who are inclined and are comfortable with it.
Yeah.
But I don't like it because it really is there really is a sleazy element to living that way. You are trying to manipulate somebody to take an action that you're convincing them is good for them because it's good for you.
Right. That's a difficult. That's why I don't think I could do it.
Well, that's why I love being a realtor, because I will tell you point blank, there's not an element of sale. If you're doing your realtor, if you're a real estate agent and you're doing it right, there's no element of sales involved. You cannot sell somebody their dwelling, and if you are, get the fuck out of the business. You're an advocate for the journey.
Sure.
Like, I think you buy into the advocacy of the journey, helping people. Yeah. We're helping people make good decisions, but they're making the fucking decisions.
Right. And
do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And we're compensated at the end of reaching the journey,
right, for being a guide.
Bingo.
Yes,
that's it. Real estate done right, and probably in a lot of other professions as well. I love advocacy. I love advocacy. I despise salesmanship. Does it make any sense?
Oh, total sense. Well, it's funny because when I had an art company and an art gallery, and like I could sell like nobody's business, but like I didn't have the like business mind to be able to structure it right. Plus I was off the rails and ended up in county jail doing something stupid and lost everything. But like even today, to like go into this new venture, like I'll sit down with my lawyer and he'll be like, well, what do you want to do? And like our first conversation when I came back, he's like this Jewish guy and he's brilliant and he's like loving Jeff Abramowitz. There's your plug. He doesn't need a plug. Anyways, I love him, and like we sat down and he was like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I want to wake people the fuck up. And he's like, well, how do you want to do it? Or how are you going to do it? And I said, some of them I'm going to have to trick. You know what I mean? And it was like this. So then he's like, well, here's how you got to do it. What's your target market? Like, these are things I didn't see before. And I'm like, oh, there will be that element of it.
Well, sure.
But if I'm providing an awakening for these people, when I say the trick thing, it's, you know, if the mom's bringing the son or daughter in for art therapy and she's taking a yoga class. My buddy Mitch is a yogi, and I told him before I went out west, I was like, dude, throw some Alan Watts in at the meditation at the end. Right. And he's like, oh, I can't do that. Well, I came back and he does it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, that's the trick part. It's like, you know, we got to feed people. We got to put in that splinter, the seed. Like, so if I believe if you have something that you want to do that's for the betterment of humanity, that the universe will conspire for you. You know what I mean? And that can be even with something in the way you look at real estate. If you look at it as like, I'm this guide or advocate, and I'm helping these people fulfill their dream. Yeah, then you can be successful, and you know, that is
it's not tied. The best advice I can give anybody doing anything sales related, a younger person, is that if it's a Zig Ziglar quote, and I'm sure Zig got it from somebody who got it from somebody, but basically the concept is if you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything.
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because it all matters in the way you say that, because some people take that wrong. I was at Bonefish the one night and I said in front of this young kid who like young guy, and he would watch me and listen to me, and I was like, you can get people to do whatever you want. And he was like, dude, that sounds like a sociopath. And I was like, well, I'm not saying it that way. I'm saying it from the sales aspect of it. Yeah. It's kind of easy.
Yeah,
and if you know that, and you don't want to abuse it, then I think you're all right.
Well, I mean, no. What I'm saying is, you help enough people get what they want,
Right.
then you can have everything.
Sure.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about, how would you word that? Because
Better.
I feel
It's
if
a bad way to.
well, no, I'm just saying, I feel if they're getting what they want, there really isn't any in sales. There's really nothing salesman-like in there for me. I'm facilitating
Sure.
their journey to make their own decisions
Yeah.
to get what they want.
Yeah.
So I don't see that. See, I think of a salesperson as someone who's going to convince somebody
Right.
to open up their wallet and
Right.
spend money,
Right.
and that's a talent.
At-
and some people do
everyone's
it
peril.
well, I think so.
Yeah.
But you'll hear people say that it's a very virtuous thing to do, and if that works for them. And they're not going to jail.
Right.
They must be doing something right. Okay, it's just, I think that's a style of human interaction that we are better now as humans. We don't deserve to be doing that to people.
Right. Exactly.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think, no, because I see what you're saying. Like, if you say it again?
If you help enough people get what they want, you can have everything.
Yeah, because that's the good way to say it, like everything. And then that provides like a conversation.
Exactly
Yeah,
right.
for me to say,
Exactly
you can get
right.
people to do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's almost a
That's
manipulation thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And
Yeah.
that's like,
But people
I did.
do. People
Right.
do.
And I didn't mean it that way, but I was teaching.
Think
like,
about when you were sold,
teaching
how fucking pissed off you were once you realized that I was being sold, knew I was being sold,
Oh, yeah.
was pissed off during the process, and still let it
Oh,
happen.
it still happens. It still happens.
I did in the car dealership multiple times over the course of my life.
The first time I went, and I took my brother-in-law with me, who was a car salesman at the time, and he was like, and I didn't listen to him at all, and they like took me to bank.
Of course.
I just got sold. What? God damn it! Something recently. Oh, I get
I laugh
sold.
anymore because I let it happen.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
There it is. There you go. I'm really bad at this. Take my
This TV
take
is
my
great,
credit card.
Mr. McKenna. This
Right.
TV here has these
Oh.
features that I know
I
I'll
need it.
never use.
Yeah.
That sounds
it.
great.
I
Wrap that
need
up
it.
for me. And
I
I'm walking
need
into the
it.
counter going, I just got sold
How
for an
the
extra
hell did
$200,
that happen?
right? Or that extended warranty, right? That's, I don't know. It's just a human condition,
Right,
man.
it is.
I mean, we're kind of, I think the fact that I can laugh about it is there's a level of, I'm happy there's a level of understanding of myself there. I'm not even mad about
Sure.
it. I
It's
expect.
like, all right.
I expect.
Well, because we can look inside and we can see
Right.
that we're still flawed and we still screw up and we're not perfect and we can
Amen.
get sold. Like that's gorgeous, man. That's
It
like
goes back to the humility thing. Like, why are we so afraid that we cannot admit our faults or mistakes? In that we wouldn't be
because
married.
we're told that.
Well, okay. So you like candidate X, I like candidate Y, right?
Right.
Everything that candidate Y stands for is opposite candidate X.
Sure.
On paper.
Designed.
You put the two guys in a room and start fleshing out their ideas, they're probably very similar.
Sure.
But there's no absolutes in reality.
Right.
But in the way we're living, there's absolutes, right? So everything that you believe is fucking wrong.
Right. Yeah.
That's not.
No.
So we have this conversation, and you explain something to me that is part of your mantra, and I go, "Wow, that makes a lot of sense to me."
Sure.
All I have to do is say, "You know what? I've revised my thinking on
Right.
that." No, why is that so? Or else I could be married to it and say, "Fuck you! It
Yeah,
still isn't right.
right.
Fuck you! I
Yeah.
know I'm wrong. I don't care. You're wrong. You're an asshole."
Right.
That's where we are today, right?
Yeah, there's a Dave Matthews. It's
Crazy.
Is it live at? I don't know. I think it's Radio City Music Hall. Him and Tim Reynolds live at Radio City Music Hall, and he's talking about like, we'll get into he was talking about one of the wars, and he was like, it was post 9/11. He's like, there's few times where it's this certain, but he's saying how like, we need to be able to talk and not be like, fuck you, oh, that, and that's it.
Yes.
But why? Because they're telling us to. Because we're programmed.
Yeah, there's no question.
We're absolutely programmed by both
both
sides.
And I don't want to be. The thing is, for me, is I don't want to be manipulated, man.
Right.
And that's where I take that deep breath and I stand back. And it's not a big skill. I'm not special. I just make the decision to do it, and everybody can do it.
3 deep,
Hear
3
things,
deep
take a
breaths
couple,
change
and then
everything.
step back and then look, because what you think is your people, your side, your philosophy, and your folks. Guarantee you're not in lockstep with them. And the people that are your enemies, supposedly, philosophical enemies, there's probably a lot of what they believe that pretty much is in line with you. You need to be humble enough to admit that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a hard concept.
It's not. And it's that open-minded. It's like, knowing it was Obama's second term, and I was struggling. I was hook, line, and sinker voting for him the first time, but I was struggling the second time primarily because some of his promises, GMOs, did not come true. And like, I know the machine, the political machine. I've watched it and worked in it, and like, so it was like, my friend Todd gave me this political test, and it turns out I'm a red dog Republican. Like, thought I was a Democrat my whole life, but it was like, you know, I want small government, have your guns, smoke your dope, marry who the hell you want. I'm a moderate. So
sounds
red
like
dog
a libertarian
Republican.
to me.
Yeah, that's, some people have said that too. So it's that sort of, but it's a moderate sort of thing, and it's like, you know, the Clintons are blue dog Democrats. You know what I mean? Like so it was like looking at like, oh, I don't know who I am.
And that's
You know,
great.
Right.
Why we can't admit that though?
Right.
You know,
No, it's this way.
No,
know
oh
what
my
I mean?
God! See, I revel in that, man. I'm happy to know. I don't know what party I associate with, because I don't associate with any, because
Right.
I like lots of both.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean?
And I hate lots of.
Exactly right.
Mostly hate lots of
That's
both.
what I'm trying to say. I don't. So philosophy,
But why? When did that happen? When did that happen?
Like,
we're
what do you
talking
mean?
about like, when did everything's politicized? Everything.
Okay, so
and what's who's responsible for that?
So
everything.
I think it started at the birth of the internet, 86, 96-ish.
Okay.
But I think MySpace starting social media, and then the proliferation of Facebook started getting us so polarized.
Right.
And there's powers at bay
Oh,
here
God,
manipulating
yes.
it, right? But
Totally.
I think we're wearing our political philosophy as a badge, not all of us, a lot of us, as a badge of honor, or a team, like the Yankees and the Red Sox, right? And they fucking hate each other, and you know, and this is what the Trump Biden thing was. You're either with Trump, then you have to believe everything,
right?
Or you're with Biden and you believe all that.
To see those hardcore,
that
hardcore philosophy, like if you voted for so and so, you're an idiot.
How do
like
these people maneuver their lives if they're living in absolutes like that? Because I
don't.
can't live my life like that.
They're
man.
consuming prescription pills and drinking too much alcohol to numb the pain, to be able to lay their heads down. That's the only thing. It has to be. It has to be. They're numbing themselves in some way, shape, or form to be able to lay down and go to sleep at night. Because I couldn't imagine walking around thinking I know. Like I said, I consider myself a smart guy, but I don't know, man. I'm not Jordan Peterson or Albert Einstein or the Dalai Lama or JC or Buddha. Like,
do you believe? In your heart of hearts, do you believe that you can take? I don't know. Let's pick the biggest liberal university in the country. I don't know. Stanford. Take Stanford.
They're all kind of that way now.
Most of them. Let's take a liberal arts professor in Stanford, and you put them in a room with a philosopher at Liberty University. Let's just say, a social professor at Liberty University. Put them in a room together. I guarantee you, man, if they go in there with humility and they go in there with kindness, they're two good people.
Right.
If they are two good people, and they go in there in about a couple hours of just being human, and if you put it on paper, the common ground bullet points would be unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And that will be a life-changing, world-changing conversation. I mean, that's, again,
that has to happen.
Again, Peterson. Peterson, one of his sayings is, conversation is the pathway to peace. He hated Sam Harris, and that's why he sat down with him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we have to be able to sit down and have a conversation with opposing viewpoints.
Well, of course.
And I mean,
that's called being an adult.
Right. And, and that doesn't mean it's going to go well. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that, if you're buying into QAnon, we're going to hit a wall.
But you gotta
It's
try.
not going to be because of me, right? We're going to have a discussion, and I'll be open-minded of it.
But if we don't try, that's where we're flawed.
Right. And that's that conversation is the pathway to peace. And that's why it's funny, my buddy Doug, who's an artist and a bit of an introvert, like he'll get, as a lot of us do, get caught up in this, like in the nihilistic sort of like, oh man, we're fucked. We are, it is not going well.
View.
And people don't want to talk about shit, he'll say. And I'm like, nope. I was like, every day. Like, because I go into the world. I had this experience that, like, in North Park at the little 7-Eleven, I walked in and, God, I can't remember her name, and now I haven't seen her. This beautiful, like, Middle Eastern woman, and, like, I can't remember what her name was, but I was like, oh, what does that mean? She's like, wow, I don't know what it means in my language, but like in Dutch, it means morning star.
Okay.
And I was like, oh. And I was like, do you know there are 2 morning stars in the Bible? And she's like, no, who are they? And I'm like, Jesus and Satan are both called the morning star. And she was just like, oh. And then we were like, and we were friends.
Right.
It was that simple.
Right.
But that's how you go into the world. And it's like people want to talk.
Of
and that's what
course,
the international,
of course.
the dark web, like Peterson and Harris and Rogan, that's what they're finding out. Peterson's like, thing with breaking down, like we don't want 30-minute sitcoms anymore. Like Game of Thrones, man. Like Game of Thrones, like unbelievably complicated, like this is what we want. Harry Potter, like these books. My oldest would burn through like a Harry Potter book in like 4 days.
Long-form conversation. And the statistics on this show don't make any sense because I never thought people would buy into what we're doing.
It's cool.
It's crazy. It says people are craving more than sound bites.
Yes.
We are the anti-sound bite. If we have a slogan, that's it. That's
nice.
what we are.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, the anti-sound bite because I just want to show people too that 2 humans or 3 or 4 humans can get in a room and really enjoy each other's company and share
like
and
we're
learn
strangers,
and
man.
learn.
We met once for like an hour.
Yeah, so if we can do this, you know, and I've had, and we don't dwell on the political thing, but I can assume the political affiliations based upon who's been in here. I've had like dyed in the wool conservatives with, and we're talking about anything but social issues. There was hunting and fishing, and whatever it is. There's always common ground. See, so we talked about it. Here's my philosophy of life, and it took me a long time to get this, and it's very simple. I want to enter every interaction that I have with complete humility, right? Absolute complete humility. I want to mind blank now. I was talking about some concepts here. Yeah, I don't even know my own goddamn
philosophy. You got 120 seconds.
Touche. I want to practice active listening. Because I don't think we really engage in our listening. We listen to respond, and then I want from that listening I want to seek to understand, and therein I will find the common ground. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's how you build a friend. That's how you build a friendship, man.
Like we said earlier, that's why cities are blue and the rural areas are red. When you go to a city, you experience culture. You meet a black person or a gay person or a white person or a Jew or a Catholic, and you understand, like, oh, I like them, despite whatever it is they think. Right? Like it doesn't. That's what happens. That's the phenomenon.
That's the beauty of life.
Yeah. Right.
But you're not going to get there unless you're human. Unless you have humility.
Yeah,
right? You can't
not
get there.
Everybody that goes in the city is going to have that experience. They're going to go home and still be assholes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I just think the humility thing is I lead with that because if I am not willing to just sit there and let it all just come and be receptive to it.
Now it's interesting because that's the primary purpose of AA. Is to break you down a little and get you humble.
And I'm not knocking AA.
Right. No. I know. I'm just saying that's like
elements of it.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. And that's but that's one of the primary purposes is humility.
Yeah.
Like you take you out because addiction is you think you're the center of the universe. Everything revolves around you. So it's to rip that away.
Yeah. I have to force myself to do that all day long
because addiction will do it to you. Addiction's trying to get you to be humble. But you're like still like it's somebody else's fault, you know what I mean? Like, oh, it wasn't my fault, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was your fault, right? It was definitely your fault.
Did you have a good time, bud?
Hell yeah, man! I will come back anytime, all the time. I'll be your co-host.
I want to. We're gonna do that,
right?
Yeah, there's some opportunities to do that.
Yeah,
nice. I appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, no, thank you.
All right, man.
Yeah.
All right, friends. Thank you, and we are out.